Two girls fought for the place of the Empress of the Empire, the daughter of the Marquise of Cartia, Urina, and the daughter of the Marquise of Defron, Lydia. Their seemingly endless war was put to an end by the genius magician of this century. He was taken in from an orphanage by Marquis Defron, with bright blonde hair and red eyes, which were considered a blessing from the goddess. His name was Carrion. He loved Lydia, Defron, and for the sake of the girl's happiness, he killed Urina Cartia. Her death was tragic and cruel, literally the perfect ending for a villain in a novel. But what if Urina was not a villain, but the main character? Carrion wonders what she would do in response to his desire to possess the beauty. Will history change? What if, knowing all the events of the future, he protects her? Go back to the past and start all over again. The guy confessed his sympathy for Urina. Will she be able to avoid a cruel and tragic death? She asks Carrion to remember everything about today and save his beloved when she is in danger. Just like she saved him. A boy broke a cup near a beautiful girl. The maid runs to her, afraid that she might get hurt. She is angry at the boy for his misdeed, but the mistress calmed her down. Everything is fine with her. The girl thought of a boy, small and wild. This beauty's name is Unsena. On a day when there was a lot of snow, she died as a result of a car accident, closing her eyes for the last time at such a young age. The girl woke up again, but in the body of a minor character in the novel she was reading, Urina Cartia. Having lived here for a week, she had no choice but to acknowledge the new life in the world inside the book. The main thing for her is not to let the secondary characters understand that she is a different person. She is a villain. Nearby, a maid was asking about the dress for today, holding it in her hands. She became worried, seeing the menacing look of her mistress, the famous daughter of the Cartia family and the main character's rival, the villainous Urina. She tragically dies at the hands of Carrion, whom Marquis Defron took from the shelter. The girl remembered from the book that Urina does not remember how it happened. The maid reported that a carriage was waiting in the courtyard. The mistress decided to leave immediately. The lady is glad because only she knows the contents of the book. According to the original, Marquis Defron found Carrion and took it. If she finds Carrion in the orphanage before the Marquis, she will change Urina's fate. Red eyes and blonde hair were the only clues. After half a year of searching, Carrion was found. In the novel, Carrion has become one of the greatest magicians. Urina offered him to go with her, so he would not go hungry anymore. But the guy pulled his hand away. He does not believe in sincere mercy. What will she do to him? The girl wanted to explain, but the boy suspected her of wanting to use her as a toy. He saw the displeased face of the lady and passed on the rumor about the interest of the aristocrats in children with his appearance. Urina doesn't understand where the child learned such words. The maid offers the girl to leave, but she stays. She agrees with the guy's words. There is no sincerity in the world, so she is going to invest in him. According to her, it will be cold in the Empire this year. If he stays here, he will not survive the winter and die. Urina offered him support on behalf of the Cartia family. Isn't that better than dying? She understood. He would not die. In any case, autumn would come, and following the original, the child would be taken by Marquis Defron. The lady leaned towards the guest and noted his red eyes. This is the symbol of the goddess, so he has a talent for magic. Urina will invest in the boy, and he must save her when she gets into danger. Soon they were standing near the carriage. The girl asks the guy, "Did he take everything and say goodbye to everyone?" He answered that he had no one to say goodbye to. The girl is happy. She thought about what would happen if the guy wanted to come back and make a fuss. Urina is ready to heal the boy's wounds when they arrive. Before boarding the carriage, the nanny asked why the lady was doing this. Urina reminded her of the child's great abilities. Even though the nanny thinks that he has no place here, the girl is ready to take the boy under her wing. The maid does not understand where the mistress got her knowledge about the boy's abilities. The nanny thought that the owner would be angry if Urine just brought Carrion along. Let him get permission first. The girl reminded him that she was from the Cartia family, and there was nothing in this world that she wouldn't do if she wanted to. When they were riding in the carriage, Carrion asked the lady why she was looking at him like that. She said she didn't bring him along for that. Did she really lie? Urine sternly reminded him of the order to watch her words. Without realizing it, the girl realized that her rude expression was a big mistake. The lady smiled and asked the name of her companion, and she herself suggested, Tom. But it is a simple name. Does he like it? She corrected it, but she knows from the novel that Carry-On didn't like his real name. It was given to him by his mother, who never loved her son. The guy doesn't like it. Shouldn't she give the girl another name in honor of her patronage over him? In another scene, a young man stood in front of the boy. He said, Carry-On. In the ancient language, it means winner. This name suits both of them. The lady remembered the name Reynard, which in the ancient language means hope. What does he think about the short Ray? The only hope that can save her? Moreover, she got to an unfamiliar, distant place. The boy thought, Urin wonders why he doesn't answer. Doesn't like it? No, he's not Tom. His name is Reynard. The gentlemen are pleased but ask to take care of her. The guy understood what she was talking about, but he couldn't afford it. You can't take a child under your protection without knowing his origins. This is what the girl's father said. If his daughter wants it so much, he will order Robert to train him to be a servant. Regardless of Urina's words, there is also the family's position. They cannot patronize the boy without knowing whether he has talent or not. Urina foresaw this, but if the children the family patronized succeed, she would benefit too. The Cartia family once raised the knight Sir Aron, and Urina cannot back down. She reminded her father once again of the child's incredible magical abilities. Of course, it's hard to tell by his appearance, but the girl didn't take the guy to be her servant. She means that Carry-On talented enough to enter the Royal Academy of Krone. The Kingdom of Krone was inferior to the Empire in many aspects, such as size of territory, military strength, economic power. But it was superior in magic. As a result, students from all empires began to come to the country to study magic. The girl's father doesn't understand how the child will get into the Krona Academy. The father doesn't try to ignore his daughter's position, but there is no basis for it. The man will pretend that this conversation never happened. That's enough for today. Urina wonders what about admission. They both won't get an answer in a conversation, so they need to find someone who can objectively evaluate the child's talent. Isn't it reasonable to find a magician for these purposes? The girl can't miss the chance since she grabbed it. If the magician says that Ray has no abilities, she will not back down. Father agreed to send a letter to Dave. Now he is in the lab, so he will come to them after lunch. Urina thanked her dad, but he had doubts. Wasn't he coddling her too much? In the hallway, the maids met the girl and complained about the child. A plate immediately flew in. Ray threw it and demanded that she not come near him. Urina asked, Did someone hit him? The maids denied it. The mistress thought that something had already happened. She had asked him to take a bath. He should calm down, but there was no one in the mansion who had hurt him. Reynard accuses the maids of harassing him. Urin doesn't believe it, but the guy continues to say that the workers wanted to take his things. They are adults. The mistress is already screaming that the maids are here to help him, and the maids poured hot water into the bathtub. He never washed himself? The boy continued to talk about the maid's desire to take his clothes off. The girl repeated in surprise, to wash the guest. Ray reminded him that he has arms and legs, so why does he need help? Maybe the maids enjoy this? Urina turned to them and asked them to leave. The boy was horrified. Why did she kick him out? What are her intentions? The girl demanded to go to the bathroom. Since he does not need help from the maids, the mistress will also leave. Let him wash himself. Ray does not trust. Now she says this, and then someone will come in. And then what? Urina didn't want to say, but the guest actually smelled bad. He looked at the girl in fear. He was going to leave now, and he had to wash himself well. She assured him once again that they wouldn't touch him here or beat him. The hostess promises him this in the name of Urina Cartia. She turned to leave and promised to see her later. Didn't he believe her and follow her here? The guy thought for a moment and fell silent. Urina was surprised by his reaction, because she asked an easy question. With displeasure, he admitted that he believed her. Soon, he was already in the bathroom. So warm, he felt such feelings for the first time. Suddenly, a girl came in and reminded him about the clothes nearby. Ray jumped up in horror, covering himself. Urina immediately left, and he did not understand how she came in without knocking. He calmed down and remembered the lady's words about his stench. From the point of view of a well-groomed aristocrat, this is so. The boy thought that other people smelled like that too. The shelter and the locals smelled like that too. In the first one, everyone was afraid of his eyes. They hated him and said that they were cursed. The poor guy remembered his father, but he didn't want to think about him. Ray picked up the yellow circle. It was the first time he had seen such a beautiful colored soap. All aristocrats probably use it. Could the boy use it? The soap smelled like urina. He remembered how, back in the carriage, Urina had examined his hands for wounds and asked the maids for a first aid kit at home. Then the boy had been engrossed in watching this scene, which had displeased his mistress. Then she asked to tell her right away if something bothered him. The girl agrees with the phrase, "Clothes are like wings." After the bath, Ray came to the girl's room in black shorts, a black vest, and a white shirt. Urina admired him. He looked so much like a noble guy. The girl noted his appearance and asked if he had done everything. Ray thought so. Now he smells nice. The girl agreed with him. The guy asked about the soap. Does she use the same? The lady allowed the use of such soap. If the guest does not like it, they can change it. The boy immediately protested. He is still wondering, is she the only one who uses such yellow soap? Soon they were sitting at the table. The girl didn't like the guest's behavior. She had to hire a tutor for him. He couldn't even hold a spoon properly. There was a lot of work to do. After eating, Ray happily lay down on the sofa. If this was heaven, he could die now. Urina does not allow it. It is a violation of their agreement. She reminded the condition. Since the girl saved him, he will save her. The boy asked, "What will happen if he does not want?" They will not force him. But is it worth talking about it? If Ray says this, then why should the girl invest in him? He got nervous, and Urina saw it. He thought about it and realized she was right. And a one-sided contract cannot be terminated. She looked at him. Even if he pretended to be rude, a child was a child. He remembered the words about his talent for magic. The guy didn't know for sure, but magic was a serious thing. And how will he become a magician? His parents were ordinary people. Magical abilities are innate, not hereditary. According to Urina, such skills have nothing to do with parents. The girl explained. It happens when parents are magicians and their child is an ordinary person. And vice versa. A child can be a sorcerer, even if his relatives are not. Ray is surprised. He does not know if he has a talent for magic. Urina admitted that she is not a wizard, but she is sure that her guest will become one. This becomes clear if you look into his eyes. The boy is angry. Everyone was talking about his curse by the goddess. The girl asks to consider it not a curse, but a blessing. Ray is afraid. What if he does not have abilities? The poor guy will be sent to the shelter again? A man entered the room. It was that same Dave. He wondered if they had already talked. Dave knelt down in front of the girl. How long had it been since they had seen each other? The mistress of the house agreed. She wondered if the gentleman had already told her about the child she had brought. His name was Renard. The magician thought for a moment and decided to begin testing the boy for abilities. Dave took the boy by the hand, closed his eyes, and seemed to be meditating. Urina looked questioningly at the magician. He suddenly opened his eyes wide and demanded that the boy be given to him. The lady suggested that he find another student in return. The magician still asked to think again about the guy, but the girl refuses. She intends to send Ray to the Krona Academy. Dave is sure that he will teach him better than the professors. He also graduated from this institution and considers himself better than those scientists. Urina agrees, but still refuses. The magician is upset that they do not trust him. During his studies, his grades were better than those of the current professors. The mage has a queue of students who want to learn from Dave. Urina foresaw this, but she will not back down. Because in the original, Carrion graduated from the Krone Academy. Unlike in the book, if the boy learns from the mage, he will not have problems with his skills. But the girl does not want to invest in an uncertain future. After all, the academy could cause the child to develop skills that could shake up the empire. If Ray does not end up at the academy, he will not be able to protect the girl from Marquis de Fron. Dave admits he has no choice. He still asks for a chance to study with the guy before leaving for the academy. Urina only wanted to ask the mage about this. She thanks him for his help. She had another reason to send her child to an institution, Lodia de Fron. We can't let them meet. We have to eliminate all uncertainties. We can't allow events to happen where they meet as in the original. Urina's father came up and asked the magician, "Can the child get permission to enter the academy?" In the guest's opinion, the boy is so talented that the dean himself should come and ask him to enroll. The mage found it strange not to feel the mana wave from the guy. It turned out that Ray was unconsciously collecting mana in herself. Even a trained wizard had a hard time holding it in so that it couldn't be felt, especially with such a large amount of mana. It is not easy to hide. Dave wonders where the child was found. The lady reported about the Jaren orphanage. The mage asked again, "Is this the Baron with sawdust in his head who only knows how to bluff?" The magician is perplexed as to how she found out about the guy's innate talent. According to the plot, Urina is now 11 years old. Dave, of course, is interested in how such a little girl found out and how she decided to do such a thing. But she won't say that in a past life, Ray was a great magician who killed Urina. And she read all this in a book. Now she needs to act like an 11-year-old. The girl told about trips to orphanages. And in the village on the way, Urina heard a legend about a child with red eyes with a blessing from the goddess. The supreme mage had the same eyes. True? False. Having heard the myth, the girl laughed, but then met Ray. Anyway, even in the original, the truth about the red eyes is revealed with the appearance of Carrion, and it can be said that nothing will change. Let them believe the 11-year-old girl who talks nonsense. And Dave believed the story with a smile. It seemed to him recently that the girl had grown up, but now he doesn't think so. Urina denies that she is a child. The magician is about to leave. He still needs to write a letter of recommendation to the academy. Urina is surprised by such a step from the magician, but he does what he must. Although he regrets that Ray is not his student, although he hopes to reveal the boy's talent. He turned to the boy. He was truly blessed by the goddess. The girl is delighted. Everything worked out for her. She asked her father if she could now take Ray under her patronage. He was forced to agree. The daughter is happy about this. The Grand Palace. Evening. A servant approached the prince. He asked if there were people who did not like him. Should they prepare to go out? In a dark room, a certain man ordered a mercenary to do everything without mistakes, because it is important. He will carry out the order. And in the estate, Urina now only wanted to convince the Marquise. She asked the child, did he understand that he would not be sent to an orphanage? The boy is forced to agree and thank. Urina is sorry. It is difficult to pretend to be a villain. She suggested going into the room. She looked at his face. Surprised? What's wrong with him? Ray shouts that he is not a child anymore. A small quarrel between them. On the threshold of the house stood the girl, Ray, the nanny, and the maid. The latter assures that they themselves can go. The mistress does not have to. But she wants to go and choose clothes for the boy. She still needs to choose a present for her mother. The Marchioness of Cartia, whom Urina saw more than 6 months ago, was a gentle and kind person. She was like a neat iris flower. That's what the girl thought when she saw her. She always smiled, was kind and polite to her family, staff, and strangers in the mansion. She had no intention of oppressing anyone, as aristocrats do. But unlike her father, she scolded mercilessly. Urina hoped that she would accept Ray. Otherwise, it would ruin her plans. They arrived in a carriage to a large square with people. The maid was surprised by their large number. The girl does not understand such a reaction. Let her look for a gift better. The maid asked to go to the store she liked, but the girl was looking for the markets they needed to go to. The companion reminded them that they hadn't gone out for a long time. There had been a lot of work lately. It would be nice to rest a little. The square was noisy, and the maid suggested waiting in some shop. Urina thinks that here you can watch people. She asks her companion not to follow her like that. Everything is fine. Urina was thinking about the gift, how to start a dialogue with the Marquise, and how to make her accept Ray. The maid showed her a beautiful fabric. The lady would obviously like it. The girl was thinking about her own, but saw an embroidered cat on the material. She suggested the maid, her name is Betty, to look at the drawing. It looks like Ray. She is delighted. It really does look like Ray. The maid hopes that the mistress will smile more often in the future. According to the housekeeper, the mistress has grown up so much. They all in the house were so worried. I remember that earlier the little girl often cried and worried, so Bet consoled her. The faithful maid asks in case of difficulties. Before the girl could finish speaking, the man in the cloak began to aim at the man in the aristocratic attire. The latter was surprised by the stranger's boldness. The man with the knife in his hand began to speak, but the aristocrat did not want to listen to his excuses. He saw Urina and shielded her from the villain with a gun. He demanded not to interfere. The situation was heating up. Who decided to stir up trouble in a crowded place? But the brave nobleman repelled the enemy's attack. Beatty is worried if her mistress is okay. She assures she is fine. The three of them went to a quiet part of the street. The guy apologized to the ladies if he scared them. Urina thanks him for helping with the bandit. The girl understands that she is okay thanks to him. The nobleman is glad that everything worked out. Betty suggests finishing for today and returning, but the mistress needs to pick up something. The maid agreed to go and pick it up herself. Betty asks the man to guard the mistress since he saved her. He agrees. It is doable. They are left alone. The guy noted the maid's energy. Urina, embarrassed, noted that she was causing problems for the guy again. He reminded her how she recently tried to stop him. But why? Urina thanks him for her recent help, but she shouldn't let it lead to bloodshed. The soldiers would have come anyway. There would have been no other way out, but it would have caused unrest because of this. There were a lot of people in that place, and if there was panic, many would have suffered. The guy thinks the girl is speaking sensibly. Was the girl rude in her words? Let her interlocutor perceive it as a child's phrases. The guy takes it as a good remark. The girl feels uncomfortable. He seems familiar to her somehow. Urina looked at the man's hand. There was no blood, but now it is visible even through the bandage. But it's good that the wound is not deep. But it can fester. Therefore, the knight must be careful. Don't you feel sorry for this thing? Bandaging on a wound. The girl does not think it is right to feel sorry for things when a person is wounded. The girl thinks, isn't it time for her interlocutor to leave? The young gentleman has his own business too. The knight was interested in this address. He smiled. Urina became worried. Did she really say something wrong? The guy understands why she spoke so freely. Everything is clear now. But the girl doesn't understand anything at all. Urina wonders, was she tactless? Then the little girl apologizes. The guy reminded how the maid stood up for her mistress. And in general, it's a bit of a pity that it happened. A sharp noise. The knight asks the guest not to turn around. From behind, an unknown villain struck the girl with a sword. But the next moment, the knight repelled the attack, and the villain fell to the ground. The guy thought that these enemies had come specifically for him. Urina stood over the attacker, but the interlocutor reassured her. He was not killed, as she thought. He suggested leaving the stranger there. Soldiers would come for him anyway. They should go somewhere else. Does the girl know where the store is? Betty was already walking towards them. The warrior suggested that they part ways on the spot. They were already at the square. Urina thanks the guy for the protection, but for him, it is a usual thing. And the warrior may not return the handkerchief with which she bandaged the wound. It was necessary for first aid. The girl advises to show the wound to the doctor. For a knight, the girl is so kind and sincerely different from the aristocrats. She hopes for a chance to meet again. Urina only looked after him. The guy returned to the palace, where he was met by servants. He is the crown prince. The servants are worried about whether the master is okay. The young man in the cloak is outraged. Where was the escort looking? The prince asks to call a doctor. The servants are worried, but the guy asks not to worry, he has already received help. And the prince even forgot to ask the name of the beautiful stranger. Never mind, they would meet again someday. And Urina and Ray stood together near the door. She had told him to leave the lady alone when she was in the mansion, and it worked. Will the Marchioness of Cardia accept the child? He wonders if the servants are required to greet him. The girl wonders, are they taking on a talented or a cowardly boy? She told the boy out loud about her father's official support for the boy. Naturally, the maids now treat him like a boss. Even if he is a commoner, he is now under the patronage of the family. Ray is not like them. He will study magic from now on. The boy does not see the connection here, but the lady explained. After studying at the academy, a magician returns back and receives a knight's title, regardless of skills. Ray even got Dave's approval, so the servants should treat the boy accordingly. The hired hands are nothing to look at. They were simply chosen by the girl's mother. There is no one here who would despise the child, and if anyone does, they will be fired immediately. So you need to stop frowning and start smiling. For now, they will communicate with Urina's mother, and the girl asked not to do something so negative. Ray doesn't understand why she smiles. Is her mother scary? The mistress denies it. No, she is very caring, although at some moments she really is scary. Finally, the maid opened the door and called them. The boys entered the room. A woman who looked very much like Urina was waiting for them there. Mother and daughter hugged each other tightly. The lady asked about her daughter's health, how she got there, and suggested that she rest in the room, otherwise her temperature might rise. Urina missed her mother and confessed to her. The lady wanted to meet the baby right away, but there was a lot of dust, and the girl was in poor health, so she did not come. 6 months ago, Urina had a severe fever in the mansion. The Marquise did not sleep and looked after her all the time. But even when her daughter came to, she did not feel better, because she thought that her beloved girl had died. The mother said that she heard from Urina's father about the boy she brought. The daughter introduced him to her mother, Reynard. He said hello, but the girl was afraid to hear a rude tone from him. In fact, the guy is much better than Dave. Question: did the boy like the mansion? He was perplexed. The lady leaned towards the guest. What about his room? They hadn't had time to prepare everything yet. There hadn't been any little visitors for a long time, so she didn't know if they had treated him well. Urina thought about the pleasant atmosphere. Ray said he liked everything. The little girl was glad about his more flexible character. Everything was not so bad. He was 12. The lady asked the guy to rest. Tomorrow they would find him the right clothes. When they were alone, Urina asked her mother if everything was okay. She didn't understand, but her daughter explained. She meant the guest. The Marquis of Cartia allowed the guy to stay because of his talent. But why didn't the Marquis mind? The girl doesn't speak, and the mother wonders why she is acting as if her daughter has done something wrong. Does she think her mother will be angry with her? With such care, the daughter's chest tightens. The mother asks not to worry about anything, not to get sick and to live happily. That's all she demands from Urina. The girl thinks it's her fault for not being her real daughter and receiving undeserved care. And at the same time, with the feeling of guilt and the way the mother looked at her daughter, in her face she saw the real mother, whom the heroine would never see again. Ray was in the bedroom with the maids and Urina. She asked how old he was. She actually knew how old he was, but what if the girl made a mistake and the guest got angry? It seems that there was a 2-year difference between Carrion and Lydia that winter. Lydia is a year younger than Urina. She is 10. It is summer now. Her birthday is not passed yet, so Ray is now 11 or 12. The boy said, "He is 12. He asked the girl, "Is she 11? And she confirmed his words. So the lady is a year younger than the boy. A child? He asked. He is older, but his body is like hers. Because he grew up in such an environment? The boy says, yes, a year older and will mature 2 years faster. Urina wonders, even if there is a year difference. But by what laws will he become an adult 2 years earlier than her? Ray said he will soon be 13. The girl is confused. How is that even possible? 13 years old? So Carrion is 3 years older than Lydia? The girl's memory is failing her. Previously, she couldn't even remember the title of a novel, let alone her age. The boy looked at his friend's thoughtful gaze and didn't understand what was wrong with her. In fact, the little Marquise has few clear memories of the boy. Blonde hair, red eyes, a unique name and its meaning. Grew up with a single mother, a bar owner, then ran away to an orphanage. Around the beginning of winter, Carrion was taken in by Marquis de Fron. After studying at the academy, Krona returned to Lydia's coming-of-age ceremony. The girl remembered nothing about the prince. Carrion has a friendly nature. She likes him. So the girl remembered him. Why did only Lydia leave the boy and choose the prince? It's strange how the arrogant child became affectionate. Urina looks at Ray. He clearly needs to eat more. She says he is almost a couple of years older than her, but they are the same height. How so? The clothes the guy is wearing now used to belong to Lix's brother. He was 10 then. Ray shouts and promises to become very tall in the future. So tall that the girl's neck will hurt when she looks at him. The girl doubts. How does he know? The guy's answer. He's like his father. He was tall. Urena doesn't believe it. Did his mother tell him this? The boy noted. His father. He was very tall. The girl is in doubt. Something is wrong here. The butler entered with an unpleasant look. Urena knows they still can't accept the boy. Although they promised the Marquis the opposite. This is how you can communicate with Ray in the mansion thanks to the Marquis's promise. The girl convinced her father that friendship between the boy and the servants was impossible. But the Marquis set conditions. First, Ray must be fully trained in etiquette. Second, he must maintain manners and behave politely in public until he receives a title. Third, except for the Marquis and Marchioness, be polite to his elder brothers at the academy. Urena herself wanted to ask the guy about it, but then Robert also refuses to accept it. He has no interest in Ray. The butler reported about the girl's invitation by Mr. Dave Dot. The seamstress was working on the boy, but she took the measurements. It remains to choose the design and material for the clothes. Ray is upset. They are not finished yet. Urena asks to calm down. Things are not easy to sew. The child thinks it's nonsense. He's been standing there for so long. He's reminded about design and materials again. And is he really tired? After all, he still needs to choose shoes, a scarf, and accessories. The nervous child doesn't know anything from what he says. Urena is outraged. How come he doesn't know anything? He has eyes to see. And anyway, let him sit down and straighten his back. If the guy is officially supported, he becomes a member of the Cardia family. No need to ruin her reputation. Why is everything so complicated? Why should he learn which fork of 4 to eat? In the boy's opinion, the girl has a boring life. He gets upset early because there is a lot to learn. The boy about the material. The color is the same, and Urena says about the same. It's all complicated. The girl insists. Different here. She leaves to meet her father and demands that the boy choose further. Ray asks to stay with him. The girl understands that he is uncomfortable without her, but she cannot indulge his spoiledness. After all, Mrs. Loren is here. But that is why the guy is worried. Urena promises to return soon. She needs to meet her father and Dave, and she can't not go. And the butler Robert will stay here. He will help the guy. Everything will be fine. The guest wanted to say something, but the Marquise asked the servant to help him. Ray is waiting for her return. In the office, Dave talked about 2 ways to get permission to enter the academy: an exam and a letter of recommendation. In the second case, you need to pass an interview to check your skills. In any case, it is difficult to enter, but the option with the exam is better. The situation with the letter is worse after cases of admission of people with poor abilities. According to the Marquis, the exam is both for skills in magic and in general subjects. Will Ray be able to enroll in the spring? If so, the guy has less than 6 months left, but he still has to enroll in the spring of next year. The training lasts 7 years. Some people finish later, but no one finishes earlier. When Urena comes of age, she will meet Lydia as candidates for the crown princess. It is fate where there is no choice but to clash with each other over political interests. Therefore, Ray is obliged to enter this spring and defend Urena after 8 years. The daughter asks her father not to worry because the guy is gifted and will enter without problems through a letter. Although she does not know the nuances, she knows that the interview is judged by skills in magic. Although correctly filled out documents are an important part, but the Marquis trusts Dave, who appreciated the boy's abilities, but he has doubts about the letter of recommendation. But the magician assured him of connections among fellow wizards. If the boy says that he studied with Dave, he will immediately receive recognition. And if the child reports receiving support from Cardia, then rumors about him will spread among ordinary people. These words of the magician interested the girl. In this respect, the mage resembles Ray in his confidence. She pointedly clarified, "The boy has everything he needs to enter the academy. The brothers did the same." In fact, she didn't really remember how Carrion did it. But given the boy's situation, there's a good chance he passed the interview with a letter of recommendation from the Marquis of Defron. Dave needs time to write the recommendation, but Anyway, this is not the original story. Dave is a first-class magician. He is better than Defron. And behind him, there is also Cardia. The situation is different, but the input is excellent. Ray will definitely do it. The magician asks not to worry. His people will write a letter. Considering the boy's skills, they would do it willingly. But for Urena, asking for such a thing is burdensome. Dave would do it if she asked him to. Besides, he wants to do it for Ray. Urena thought that the magician was delaying his admission for the sake of a chance to teach the boy. Dave had such thoughts, but it was better to enroll quickly, and 12 was a bit late. The lady repeated the words of the guest about his imminent 13th birthday. According to the magician, it is even more necessary to prepare everything faster. Urena is pleased. Everything will work out thanks to the magician. Even the Marquis has no doubts. When she stood in front of the room doors, she thought, everything is going well. The flower pot broke. Urena asked Betty what was going on. According to the maid, after Mrs. Ray left, he was initially wary of Mrs. Loren and Bet, but everything went well. The seamstress showed him fabrics and patterns, and there would have been no problem. But when choosing a headdress for Mrs. Betty fell silent here, and the lady did not like it. The maid hesitated but continued. The seamstress called the guest's eyes sinister. It would be better to hide them when the boy went outside the estate. Urena was angry. She had warned the butler about the punishment of anyone who said anything about the boy's eyes. This is not a surprise to her. For the girl herself, Ray's eyes are hope, but others perceive them differently, as a feeling of fear of the unfamiliar. In the Empire, red was not considered a bad omen, but eyes of that color were still considered cursed. Urena warned the butler about it so that the maids wouldn't gossip. That's probably why she didn't get any bigger. The lady wondered if Robert had made a remark to Mrs. Loren. According to Betty, the man had made the same remark to her as to everyone else. The younger lady, Cardia, must have a kind heart. The boy had his family to thank for wanting to support such a sinister child as he was. Mrs. Loren then said she would not have made his clothes if it had not been for the family. The seamstress even allegedly felt bad next to the poor child. That's exactly what she told him. After that, the missus was taken away with a scratch on her hand. She was taken to the doctor. Everything turned out well thanks to the intervention of the maids. Betty called the seamstress a fox who walked with a proud head, because she is sure that she is doing the job for the sake of the family. The girl asked, and Ray staged a riot and everyone left? That's exactly how it was. When Urena pulled Ray out of the shelter, she wanted to show him everything from the good side, and to show strength against the weak when you yourself are weak against the strong. It's disgusting. How does Ray feel after the evil towards her? The girl demanded that Mrs. Loren be brought to her when she finishes her treatment. The mistress wants to enter the room with the boy, but the maids consider it dangerous. She had barely stepped through the threshold when a vase flew past and broke. The boy asked her not to come near. He was sitting on the bed in a sad state. Urena would have simply yelled angrily at this woman for her attitude towards her. The girl will make them pay for this, but she will also take the wrath on herself. If the boy blames the girl for leaving him, but she needs to apologize and calm him down. And she asks for forgiveness for returning late. The boy was shaking, and Urena decided to punish the seamstress for her attitude towards the guest. The girl saw the boy's eyes. What was wrong with them? He accused her of lying. This is not a blessing from the goddess. And she also talked about his abilities. Ray was not yet 13 years old. He had not received love from his parents in his life. He also suffered from other people's looks about his red eyes. The boy considers the girl to be the only one who positions him as special. The boy's caustic nature was probably created by the hatred of other people towards him. The girl suddenly found herself in an unfamiliar place and tried to survive here. That's why she thought of using him. She did not think about the feelings of the unfortunate, did not insult him, but she is no different from Mrs. Loren. But the guy must know about the blessing of the goddess, and his eyes are her symbol. He will become a good man. Urena asks Ray for forgiveness, and he said that everything here is alien to him, and everyone looks at him as if they are seeing him for the first time. The lady promises to punish the seamstress, and in the future, no one will allow such treatment towards him. She asks the guest to answer with pride if anyone dares to look down on the unfortunate man. And such an attitude towards the guy does not mean that they treat her the same way. The Marquise took his hands and called the boy's eyes incredibly beautiful. The girl thinks the guy's eyes are like rubies. There are such red gemstones. Ray's eyes are really red. So much so that it was unusual to meet him in the dark. It's not that they are a symbol of a goddess. The girl just likes the way Ray looks at her without hesitation. All the people here look at her as a marquise named Urina, and not as the one inside her. The boy's face twisted in horror. What was his interlocutor talking about now? She was upset. He knew how to ruin the atmosphere, but she said out loud that she was glad he had encouraged her. The guy looked at the girl's hand. Did she hurt herself? Irina replied that she was fine. She would ask Dave to do it, and there wouldn't even be a scar. Ray thought he had hurt her, but the lady asked him not to pay attention. The guy touched the baby and asked if it hurt her. No, it doesn't hurt. Ray let go of his hands and apologized for such an intrusion. He was horrified again. Irina grabbed her face. The wound was gone. It was definitely there. She looked in the mirror and asked the guest how it happened. The guy doesn't know, he just didn't want the girl to get hurt. The lady understood. He healed her with magic. Ray is in a panic and doesn't know how this is possible. But Urina knows. It's definitely magic. She did talk about his talent. The boy now wonders if he really has abilities. And she did talk about it. Let him try to heal his wounds for complete conviction. Urina touched the boy's face. She suggested that he do as he had done to her. The boy touched his face, but to no avail. The Marquise asked him to stop, or else the pus would spread. Ray couldn't do it, but the girl thinks it's because it's his first time. He'll learn. He hasn't even started learning magic yet, but he can already use complex healing magic. It's just his first time, so he doesn't understand how to do it. The girl will help the guy to discover his talent and will make him and everyone around him understand how special he is. After a while, Urina was sitting at the table with Mrs. Loren. The girl said that she heard Ray get angry and behave rudely. Is everything okay with the seamstress's hand? She said discontentedly that yes, everything is fine. Her hand was bandaged. In the girl's opinion, the seamstress's inner intentions were obvious. From the aristocrat's point of view, nothing had happened. Even with Cartia's support, Ray is a commoner with no education, and Miss Lorena is the wife of a baron, and therefore an aristocrat. And it was not physical violence, but just words, so there are no problems for the lady. For others, aristocrat does not matter, but the girl decided to say a few words. After all, Ray was hurt by her words. The Marquise won't let it go. She's the only one who can protect him. He's a good kid, but he's not used to living here yet. The little girl is worried that the seamstress will have a scar on her hand. Irina apologizes to the lady for the child. She does not ask for it. The girl does not need to apologize. After all, nothing terrible happened. She sews outfits and often gets abrasions on her hands. Mrs. Loren was already screaming and asking the little girl not to worry about her. Irina feigned praise for her big heart, and she herself is a wonderful person. The girl was disgusted by this. The seamstress fawned on her, although the Marquise was younger than the lady's daughter, but she treated Ray with disdain. The lady did not want to leave it from the very beginning, and now she is even more angry. Even if the seamstress says she did it for the Cartia family, it is enough to understand that she disdains this family. The lady ignored the butler's warning about the uselessness of discussing Ray's eyes. Ulina were to raise her hand against the guest now. She would not say anything to her. But the Marquis did not want to use such a stupid method. There was a more effective way. Frowning, she asked the guest a question. Why would such a caring person as Mrs. Loren ignore the butler's warning and allow something like that to be said? The seamstress is perplexed, and the mistress orders the dresses she has made to be brought. Irina's orders, the maids cut up the clothes. Mrs. Loren was horrified by this picture. The girl did not let up. Was the guest Ray's advice for the well-being of the Cartia family? The girl was grateful for this, but the seamstress ignored the warning. Didn't the missus take this into account and just spoke out? Urina promised to make it so that the seamstress would no longer be able to sew for the nobility. In fact, the Marchioness did not want to go too far, but the guest needed shock therapy. The missus abuses her position in society. The girl wants the guest to understand the need to take responsibility for her actions. The girl stood in the room next to the boy and Dave. He considered the guy's magic incredible. Urena thought that where she was from, for such a wound, you need ointments, plasters, and much more. Ray does not understand why she looks like that. But for the Marquise, what happened is incredible. If she looks like that, she'll rub a hole in her face. The girl laughs. Is that true? The magician, amazed, reminds him of the lady's wound on her face. But where is it? The maids say the damage is serious. Urena pointed to her cheek. That's where she was wounded. But everything disappeared when the boy ran his finger there. Dave is sure it's magic, especially if the wound healed immediately and without a trace. The girl thinks it's a stupid explanation. The magician smiles. She can't see it. But he himself understood everything, looking at the traces of magic left on his face. Magic implements the use of mana that surrounds people. Such mana is artificially transformed to use magic, and traces of its use remain for a certain period of time. Dave sees such traces on the girl's cheek. Urena doesn't understand. Since Ray hasn't been trained in magic, how can he use it? Sometimes talents like the boy can use magic unknowingly. According to Ray, you can't use high magic, but simple magic, like healing a wound, is fine. Dave thinks the boy can subconsciously trap mana from his body. It's no wonder he used healing magic. The longer the magician waits, the more he longs to have a hand in the boy's talent. Urena is against it. The young talent is already asleep. The lady wonders why he healed her wound, but not his own. The girl reminded the magician of his own words about having enough abilities to use healing magic. Dave agreed, and Ray wanted to heal the girl's wounds more than his own. But for a magician, it is incredible to use healing magic at such an age. The girl will not give up the guy, no matter how much Dave praises him. She thanked him and wanted to wake the boy up. Ray did not wake up, and this worried the lady. She brought the maids and the doctor to the little one. He thinks that the patient has an excess of stress. This sometimes happens, and besides, the poor guy's body was already in bad shape. Ray held on with mental strength, but he couldn't stand it. The doctor left, and Betty suggested that the lady rest while she sat with the guy. It was her job. Urena assured him that everything was fine. She noticed the maid's hands. Betty's hands became like this when she made a doll. The boy feels unwell when the mistress is not around, so to calm him down, the maid tried to make a doll. The ladies put the toy next to the boy. Urena thanked the maid for her help. She was already happy. If she was useful. No, the mistress asked the girl to calm down. She praised the maids for their work, but will stay with the boy for now. Betty asks to call the maids immediately if something happens. The girl closed the door behind them. Dave healed the boy's wounds around his eyes. But a wounded soul cannot be healed at once. She remembered the doctor's words about the poor condition of the unfortunate man's body, so Ray was tense, all the time here. He was noisy, so the girl thought he was used to it. She remembered the guy's words about, his eyes are the blessing of the goddess. That's why Ray couldn't calm down. But Urena is glad that nothing serious happened to him. Initially, Urena wanted to look after the boy herself, maybe because she is an aristocrat herself. The girl was not even allowed to change the towel, as it could hurt her hands. She even wanted to help with food, but Ray decided to do it himself and ate somehow. He did not decide to change his sweat-soaked clothes and asked not to touch him. Urena could only sit and look at the boy. He woke up and saw the Marquise looking at him. Again, she asks him not to stare. Otherwise, she will wear a hole. Will she take responsibility if this happens to him? The girl is glad that he woke up. And good, she will stop watching, since she cannot take responsibility. The boy wonders what the mistress did while he was sleeping. Ray turned over and covered himself with a blanket. Urena is unhappy. He is still capricious, but he is still glad to see the baby. He behaves like a child. There is even a toy. Let him forgive, but she is not interested in such little ones as this Ray. The young magician is shocked. He is 2 years older than the girl and taller, according to the Marquise, but not taller than her. And if he argues like that, then he has recovered? The cold looks serious. The guy needs to be given some water. She gave him water, but the guy spilled it when he drank. He also refused help. He started feeling cold, but that was because of the liquid he drank. Ray felt like he had become an omelet. The Marquise sees in him the strength to joke. He needs to sit down. He will warm up soon. Irina suggested the guest to change clothes. His clothes are wet, and that's why he's cold. Ray doesn't want to, because she's nearby. The lady is ready to go out, and he's sick, and his voice has just come through. He was so cold that his teeth were chattering. The guy clearly had a high temperature. The girl wasn't cold, so she couldn't say for sure. It was so hot. Now was not the time to use the fireplace. It hadn't been cleaned. The girl decided to clean it after all. Ray covered himself and asked, "Does it still smell?" He was still worried about what she said. Irina smiled. "Yes, it does." The guy was upset, but she added, "It smells nice." Laughs. The boy stared ahead with his eyes wide open, which attracted the Marquise's attention. He wanted to sleep, so let her go too. No, he wasn't cold. Everything was fine. But if he fell asleep in these clothes, he would get sicker. Let him change. Irina gave him a new set of clothes. She asked, "Isn't he scared?" The guy answered that he is not a child anymore. According to the lady, even adults feel lonely if they are sick alone. She wanted to say that she was also sad when she was sick alone. Among all the days she had lived, the day she died came to mind. The feeling of dying in an unfamiliar place, this loneliness and fear. Then anyone, even a stranger, would have taken her hand. While Irina was thinking, Ray looked at her questioningly. He took her hand and asked, "What's wrong with her? Did she get infected from him?" The girl answered, "No, he's still a child." Ray asked the girl to go to bed if she intends to continue like this. "And the doll isn't his then?" Ray hesitated. "It's just that girl." And then he demanded that the Marquis go to bed. "Is he sure? Won't he be scared alone?" The young magician reminded him again, "He's not a child." The girl wanted to call the maids, but they were already pushing her out. Irina seemed to remember. "He is sick. Let him lie down quickly." Let him say so, but what if he gets more sick? The girl decided to give the order to keep an eye on the guy. She looked at the guest. Why is he sighing, as if with relief, afraid that she will pester him? Let's not cry in her absence. Ray asks the girl to leave, and the guys wished each other sweet dreams. Ray and Urina were sitting at a table with books. He asked what she was so focused on. She opened a book in front of him. But the magician didn't understand anything, although he studied hard. But it was still not enough. Urina reminded that he started studying quite recently. He started learning with the help of a tutor. They started with learning letters. So far, the boy only copies letters and reads simple words with a stutter. The tutor, known for her strictness, has assessed Ray as a smart, hardworking, and good student. The Marquise is glad that her guest is more interested in studying than she'd expected, and he is learning an ancient language. The boy wonders if Urina can read it. She can't, but she would be glad if she could. The little girl doesn't have such an ability, although in romantic fantasy books, the heroines read in such languages. The words in the book seemed like scribbles. Ray doesn't understand why the Marquise needs this novel if she can't read it. But she's walking there. The guy doesn't understand why this is. But the girl needs notes. Any records of the goddess blessing the boy's eyes. He thinks there's no need to look for them, but Urina has a different opinion. She should have done this earlier. If she had found them from the start, it would have been easier to convince Dave and his father, and the boy wouldn't think his eyes were terrible. Other people wouldn't be afraid of him, and he himself wouldn't be subjected to unfounded condemnation. Not that the girl didn't try, visiting different shelters in search of Ray. In her spare time, Urina wanted to find records of some of the greatest mages in history, including the Archmage William. The problem isn't that she can't read it, it's the volume. There is no search engine here, you have to search yourself. There are no descriptions of the mage's appearance anywhere. A month later, it turned out that any information found was known to Dave and his colleagues. Urina thought about how Marquis de Fran knew about this fact. Eyes, pupil color, red color, goddess, blessing. When they were in the library, Dave wanted to know, did the Marquis need a translation of words into the ancient language? He didn't think about her desire to learn the ancient language. Urina just likes these words, wonders how they sound in the ancient. The magician is glad, because curiosity is the driving force in magic. So the magician learned several disciplines. He translated the words and gave the sheet of paper to the girl. Now Urena can find any data, and there is no need to read everything. But it didn't work. Ray is worried. What's wrong with her? She doesn't look well. The Marchioness had not slept for several nights, looking through the tome from Dave. But she still found nothing. She needed to get to the Imperial Library. Soon the girl was there, having convinced her father and the magician. Big place here. Even sources for a thesis were easier to find than this. Asked Dave to get books from the top shelf. He thinks she doesn't need to do that. Rumors are probably not true. They can't know for sure. Urena will definitely find them and show them to Ray. You can't give up even if there's a small chance. If she protects the guy from pain, she'll search not only the library, but the entire empire, Dave thinks. The Marquise is very concerned about the boy. She agrees because she brought him herself. According to the magician, it all looks complicated. Urena reminded about the troubles Ray had endured. This happened because of her carelessness. The magician allowed the girl to have an interest in the young talent. She asked the interlocutor not to talk nonsense. Let him read the title of the book from the shelf. Urena agrees that in the eyes of her mage friend, she and Ray look cute. But she's more like a nanny who runs around with a naughty child. If she were really 11, she'd still allow this. Spending all day with Ray, the girl can call him cute. But the adult she can't allow this. Otherwise, there will be problems. Dave was standing idle, and the girl demands that he read the title of the book she needed. The magician agreed with a smile. He wondered if the girl would really be able to review everything. There were few books, but they were all thick and hard to read. But Urena wanted to do her best. She wanted to find the words, but it was harder than it seemed. Betty noticed the tired mistress at the table. The faithful maid reproaches her. Studying is good, but health is more important. The Marchioness asks to return the book taken away by the maid. Betty does not give it back. Otherwise, the mistress will study all night again and get tired. Urena assures that she is fine, but the maid does not believe her. Finally, the Marchioness snatched the book. She took several copies, but the maid may take them away again. As they walked down the corridor, they saw people in cloaks. Is this the Imperial family? Black hair, golden eyes. Dave bowed and greeted His Highness the Crown Prince. The girl did the same. Why didn't she recognize the heir? He asked the guests to stand up and address the magician, calling him a knight named Cest. He hadn't seen him for a long time. He hadn't shown up at court recently. The prince connected this with the Marquis of Cartia's reluctance to let the magician go. The name of the heir to the throne is Curtis Xenonian. He is the main character of the novel, whom the girl must be wary of. Now she understood the reasons for the anxiety she felt then. Dave explained that he was busy, and he was especially busy these days. The Marquis considered the words of her comrade a mistake. She had no time to assess the situation. But if she had known that it was Curtis, she would not have done so. But he may not remember what happened that day. He needs to act calmer and not attract attention. The prince suggested continuing the conversation elsewhere over a cup of tea. Dave doesn't mind, but he's not alone. The prince began to approach them, and this caused fear in the girl. Curtis wondered if this was the same daughter of the Marquis of Cartia that he was so protective of. And the girl's body was enveloped in a suffocating anxiety. The heir demanded that Urena raise her head and say her name. After a while, Urena and Ray were sitting at the table. The boy thought she looked strange. Maybe something had happened. Did the poor thing have a fever? Urena explained it by fatigue. According to Ray, the reason was the scribbles she was constantly looking at. He also gets tired when he sees complex words. The interlocutor just yawns. She thought about it. Relationships with the prince. But the girl didn't think about that. If the real Urena and the heir were in a relationship, why did he leave the Marquise and choose Lydia? If Curtis and Urena were dating, how did the two girls become rivals? Did Lady Cartia do something wrong? Although, what would change if she found out? But nothing would change if she found out whether the prince and Urena had a relationship or not. It is clear that Curtis has an interest in the Marquise. It is also clear that this will have a negative impact on her own plans. What to do? The girl's thoughts were interrupted by Ray. What happened to her friend? She has been walking around with a sad face all day and looks exhausted. Is it because Betty is not around? Ray is ready to listen to the girl if she has a problem. Urina does not say, "It is a secret." The guy will not give it away, but she still does not open up to him. She can't tell anyone about it. So most of the time, the heroine pretended that nothing had happened and smiled. Probably because of this, her family and others in the house did not notice the girl's worries. But it's better if no one notices. In case of questions, who will believe if Urina tells? That she is from another world and this one is fictional, and she knows about her death in advance? And no one will believe the words of a child. Ray asked to tell, even if it was a trifle. It bothers the girl. If it is hard for her to talk, let her try to speak out. Maybe it will become easier. When someone is understanding, the boy himself feels better. And Urina told about her dream, in which she saw the ceremony of her own coming of age. There was a man there that she liked, and the Marquise thought it was mutual. Maybe they even met. But at some point, the veil fell from Urina's eyes. She learned about the existence of another woman with this man. Then the Marchioness died at the hands of this lady's father. He might have thought that Urina would be a hindrance. The girl told it in a rough way, but the meaning is clear. She herself recently met a guy similar to the man from the dream. That's why the Marquise is depressed, because she remembered this nightmare. She thought of saying this to a 12-year-old. Ray suddenly hugged his interlocutor and asked, was she scared? If this happened to him, the boy would be scared. But it's not funny, is it? It's just a dream. Urina thinks so, but not Ray. For him, scary things are scary. Is it a dream or not? He would be scared if he saw the person from the dream in real life. If the girl is scared, then she shouldn't date that guy. She smiled and hugged the young magician. I agree. He's right. Urina left, and the boy closed the door behind her. He considered himself a fool. The girl was clearly having a hard time. Disappointed, he sat down on the floor. Ray could not console her completely and remembered his friend's words about a possible meeting with that stranger. His mood changed strangely. She supported the guy and stood by his side when he needed it. The boy is ashamed. It seems he couldn't become a good friend to her. Urina walked down the corridor and thought, this is still the beginning of a romance, but from now on, it's not worth allowing something like this. Carrion is only 12 years old. He sat surrounded by books and studied. The boy is interested in studying, but he still can't get used to local life. When he was in the shelter, he did everything he wanted, but he will get used to it. Sweets helped the boy clear his mind. Betty brought coffee, and Ray thanked her. The maid says it is unnecessary because she is doing her job. The boy would drink the drink with pleasure. Betty wanted to protect the young magician even more because he worked so hard and he was so small. The maid remembered her younger sister. When the guy asked where the Marchioness was, Betty answered. She had gone to meet Dave. The maid wondered if he felt like he was missing her when his mistress was not around. Ray turned away. He didn't feel anything like that. The maid calms the boy down because Urina will come soon. The girl is already leaving, offering the boy to rest. The teacher will appear here soon. He is upset. What is the Marchioness doing if she hasn't returned yet? Ray is unhappy because the lady has been busy lately and does not listen to his lessons. He continues to search for information about red eyes, is always tired and has nightmares. The guy doesn't care if she finds something. He remembered the girl's words that she likes his eyes more than the true meaning of red eyes. He doesn't care if someone likes the boy or not. As long as he likes himself, he will try his best for that. And Urina asked Dave to interpret a page from a book. She doesn't know what it says, but she noticed the phrase, red eyes. Even though there were difficulties, the decision to go to the Imperial Library was the right one. And if the book contains a hint about red eyes? The magician screams in delight. Incredible, mistress. Urina happily asks what is written there. Dave reads, according to the records, Archmage William had red eyes. Some say his eyes are like the eyes of animals and that he is cursed. Xenon Artis, who had studied William for a long time, believed that the latter's eyes were the source of magic. According to Dave, he based this on the founding myth of the Kingdom of Dennis, located in the south of the Empire before its unification. Urina thought. The myth of the foundation. According to the old book Dave, Alessandro Denic, the first king in the myth of the founding of the Kingdom of Denic, had red eyes. He considered himself the son of a goddess and said that his eyes were due to a blessing. After this, it was believed that all those with red eyes received the blessing of the goddess. They were called prejudice and were treated as gods. Opinions are divided as to whether this had anything to do with the goddess, but no one doubted that the prejudice faces that lived only in the kingdom of Dennick were the best magicians of that time. As Urena thought, Ray's eyes are unusual, and all the records prove his special status. Dave heard this story for the first time. If the lady hadn't found it, he would be in the dark. The magician doesn't understand why there are no other records of red eyes. The girl admitted that someone was deliberately getting rid of them. Dave agrees with this. He thinks that the existence of prejudice acted as a spiritual support for the kingdom. Urena is sure that if it is the main force of an enemy country, the Empire has no reason to leave records about it. If they really were the spiritual support of the country, just in case one of the descendants of the conquered lands saw the records, decided to unite the people and go against the Empire. But this would be a burden for an empire that expanded its power through endless wars. Information is only in ancient books, which can be understood by mastering the language. But even so, it is not easy. They still couldn't clear everything. Urena doesn't rule out that it was because of rumors about the curse that were passed from mouth to mouth. She asked the magician what he was doing. He wants to study the book better. It's all interesting. The friend thought this might be useful information when he wrote a letter of recommendation to Ray. The girl did it. In any case, it's good that she found the exact proof. But having learned everything, she still had questions. It took a long time for the girl to find the information. This became possible thanks to the hints. But how did Marquis de Fron find out about everything? The girl wondered how Marquis de Fron had learned that information. It took her more than a month of searching through ancient books, and she found the necessary data, although it was difficult. Urena entered the room where Ray was studying. It was evening, but the boy was there. She asked him what he was doing there at such a time. The boy was doing his homework. The girl suggested that he take a rest, because it was late. He tries so hard when she is not there. Yes, Ray is diligent. Let her see how much he wrote. The Marchioness saw the letters. Crooked, but better than before. And the student's behavior became softer. Ray showed his hands. Look how hard he tries. Even calluses appeared. Urena took his fingers and asked if it hurt. He answered that no. There were few calluses. And while the guy was studying hard, she was persistently looking for something. The Marquise put the book on the table where it was said about red eyes. She reminded him again that his eyes were the blessing of the goddess. She suggested looking at the page. It was written there. It is stated that people with eyes like Ray's are called prejudice. The boy covered his face with his hands and said, I understand. The girl does not understand why there is such a reaction. The young magician is not sure, and should he be happy now? Even if that were true, nothing would change right away. Urena said that Dave would attach this information to his letter of recommendation to the academy, and people would no longer look at his eyes with horror. The guy is still not sure about the veracity of the information. He is worried. Will Urena listen to the classes with him again? She found what she was looking for. Then, from tomorrow, she should not miss classes. Ray hopes the girl will continue to listen to them with him. What should she do? This is basic training. She does not have to be present. Besides, he has settled in here. Should they continue to listen to the lessons together? The boy thinks it will be good to listen together. Urena's thought, he likes it. He still pretends to be polite. Why is his reaction to this better than to the news about Beatus? Okay, the Marquise agrees. The boy was very happy. Ray seemed like a child to her now. She asks him not to overdo it and go to bed. When Urena went out into the corridor and the young magician stood at the threshold, he thanked her for the information about the eyes. The girl entered the library and saw a man among the books. She recognized him as her father. A candle was burning on a pile of novels. Urena does not understand why her father is here. In the morning, Ray sat in the classroom and waited for classes to start. He asked the girl if he had to wear clothes in the heat. After all, no one was watching. Why make life difficult? The Marchioness reminded him of her presence. Ray doesn't mind if Urena looks at him. She said that the boy should have twice as much clothes. She demanded to reduce the amount of things so that it would not be heavy for the boy. Ray noted incredulously that the girl also wore a coat in the summer. but she says everything as if it were true. Urina reminded how yesterday he did not let anyone touch him. He kicked everyone out and urged them not to look at him. The boy doesn't understand what this has to do with him. He was about to wash himself, and the Marquise and her maid just walked in. It's hot, and the boy asks to take off his vest, but Urina doesn't allow it. But she agrees that it's hot. In her world, she would have turned on the air conditioner, already thinking about letting the student take off his vest. Ray immediately got rid of this garment and waved his fan near the girl. So a little refreshing. And then the young magician suggested going to the river. He is from the region where he used to go to the river with his friends on such hot days. Urina wonders, is that why he wants to go? Not necessarily directly, the guy says. Since it's hot, Ray can't concentrate. His hands are sweating and it's harder to write. It's hard for the teacher too. The girl is sure he doesn't want to just study. But that's understandable. The boy is tired. But Ray doesn't mess around in class. Always does everything, even if it means sacrificing sleep. Should she grant his wish? Betty brought them drinks. Urina wonders if there's a cool place to relax nearby. Ray explained that he wanted to swim in the river. The maid told him about the lake outside the city. But the boy still had a magic lesson. But if he didn't have one, would he like to go there? The boy answered affirmatively. The Marchioness ordered Betty to tell Dave to get ready. They would all go to the lake, even the maid, and the kitchen was to prepare snacks. But the boy would still have to have a lesson. Ray knows, but he is still delighted. Soon they were there. The guy was explained that this is the largest lake in the capital region. Its name is Remen. The student saw such a body of water for the first time. In his homeland, there was a river. Urina hid behind Dave. She did not go out because she was afraid of getting her clothes wet. And she reproached Ray because he splashed water. He looked at the people and felt like he was the only one happy here. Betty forgot something and ran away, but soon returned with a light umbrella. She gave it to the student, but he is not very happy. He wants another one. According to the maid, there is no other. Only this one used by the mistress. And nothing can be done. Dave came up and Ray told him that the umbrella had a flower pattern. With one movement of his hand, the magician turned the umbrella black. Betty was shocked. The magician smiles. He changed the color with the help of magic. After a while, it will regain its original shade. The maid reproached the magician that he should have told her about it right away. She was scared. But Ray was surprised. That's what magic is. Unbelievable. And he wants it that way. Urina believes in her friend, he can do it, and Dave tells how the guy is doing well. Ray is confused. He doesn't know how and what to do. The master just uses magic. The girl reminded that Ray has just started learning. Does he think he can use magic without knowledge? A month has passed since the student began to study the basics of magic, and Dave is sure that the guy will continue to develop quickly in the future. Since it is hot here, Urina suggested going for a boat ride. She took his hand. It seemed hot to the girl and was getting even hotter. Already in the boat, Dave explained to the student that of all the natural elements, water is the greatest possessor of mana. Does the boy remember what he learned last week? Ray seems to be holding back the magician now. Urina intervened. What does Dave think he is holding back? She talked about the need to teach a lesson. Ray didn't think they would actually give a lecture. According to the Marquise, they could rest after it was over. And if he listened carefully, it would be over soon. She had already asked the magician to be brief. Ray remembered Dave's words that magic would be more powerful if used near water. The magician praised the guy for his memory. Yes, if magic is used near bodies of water, it is possible to use large-scale and complex magic. The boy wonders, what about the gorges with streams? The magician answered that it is possible there, too. Urina is surprised. Only he talked about not wanting to learn, but he concentrated so quickly. The Marchioness raised her umbrella over the student. He doesn't understand why such concern. The girl says, did he forget about Betty's words? And his face will get tanned, too. The boy reminded her about his umbrella. The Marchioness agrees. Let him use it. Urina turned around and looked towards the shore. Dave suggested ending the lesson, and the Marquise remembered about the lack of time for rest. Then she looked for Ray and studied with him. Suddenly, Ray grabbed her face and she turned to him. He asked if it was cooler this way. The girl agreed. Yes, it was. The guy had an object similar to an ice floe. He touched it, then the girl, and she felt the coolness. The boy is glad that he brought this object, otherwise he would have died from the heat. The student is ready to play because the lesson is over. He wanted to dive into the water, but the Marquise stopped him. Ray took the water in his palms, but froze. This made the girl smile. She asked why he didn't splash. He turned away and explained. His head was spinning. Urena was worried and hoped it wasn't something serious. No, the guy was taking cookies. Sweets were saving him from heat stroke. Ray ate and thought, it's all because of the heat. All because of it. And at night, Ray woke up on his bed because he couldn't sleep. In the carriage, he wanted to, but now he didn't. He went out into the hallway and knocked on Urena's door. She doesn't understand why he's here at this time. The student explains, he can't sleep. The Marquise smiles. Is it because of the rain? But the boy denies everything. He almost screamed, but the girl covered his mouth with her hand. Urena led the night guest into her bedroom. He asks the Marchioness for forgiveness and is ready to go to his room. The hostess assured him that everything was fine. She had already gotten up. She invited the guest to sit on the bed. As they sat on the bed, Urena moved closer to the guy and leaned her head on his shoulder. Is he sleepy? She asked. Or is he afraid of the sounds of rain and can't fall asleep? Ray continues to deny it. Well, no, so no. The girl took out the cards and offered to play. She wants to play, and she is the only one who wins. Ray played and did not understand why he always lost to her. The Marquise thinks to give in to the guest. Ray misunderstood something and asked his girlfriend for an explanation. She asked him again if he wanted to sleep, but the guy didn't want to. The student wanted to win at least once and then go to bed. Urena suggests another time because the guy wants to sleep. When you're tired, you need to concentrate. The boy is interested, but the girl doesn't want to sleep. According to her, she always wins and doesn't want to rest yet. Ray agreed. She had won 4 rounds in a row. Maybe he had misunderstood the rules. The Marchioness noticed that the rainy season had started. Okay, they closed the doors. The boy covered his ears. Is he afraid of thunder? Okay, if he's afraid, he can stay in the girl's bedroom. She allowed it. Ray shouts that he's not afraid. Urena suggests that he go back to his room. She might as well not tell him, he himself. But thunder rumbled. The guy didn't have time to finish, and the guys hid under the blanket together. The Marquise reminded him of his words, that he wasn't afraid of anything. She took the poor guy by the hand and asked him not to be wary. She was right there. Ray admitted that he hated rain more than thunder. It brought bad memories, but he didn't want to say what kind. The Marquise suggested playing cards again when the sun rose. The boy agreed. Ray was doing magic with his hands, and Dave was standing next to him and praising him. How well he would do it. The student had become much better. If he studied harder, he would be a magician like his mentor. Betty entered the room. She was surprised that the training was still going on. Dave reassured the maid. They had already finished. The maid was pleased. Ray approached her with a question. Did she bring what he asked for? Yes, Betty just brought it. She had a brooch on her hands. The thing belongs to the lady, but she doesn't like the color. That's why she rarely uses it. The boy took the item and went to Urena. Betty noticed that if he runs, he will get hurt. The young magician is sure that this will not happen. Dave also asked the student why he asked to teach him this magic. The guy smiles and the maid looks at him. He asked the girl, have the boy and the girl become close yet? The maid thinks so. But why is Dave laughing? And Ray came in Urena. She asked, is the lesson over? He answered, yes, early today. She wonders why Ray didn't let her listen to his lecture with him today. He kept his hands behind his back and wanted to show her something. The student took out a brooch, surprising the lady. He asked her to concentrate on it. A light magical glow appeared around the brooch. He decided to practice. The girl wondered if Ray had improved his magic. According to the talent, the lady lent him a pillow, so that's why she gave him such a gift. Urena thanked the boy and looked at the brooch. Does she like it? Ray asked. The girl answered positively. It is her favorite color. But he sees the owner every day, so he knows, of course. It was raining outside. Ray wondered if the girl had been having nightmares lately. She had said earlier that fears arose because of them. The girl was surprised if the boy remembered all of this. Urine assured that everything was fine. No nightmares lately. Really, Ray remembers even the smallest details? And he picked up her book. Asked what she was reading, she reluctantly answered, "It's just a novel." The guy was very surprised, but Urina does this when she's busy. The young magician is interested in what's written there. He'll try to read it when he starts practicing letters. The girl thinks there is an interesting plot. She likes the main character. Ray asked, if he is a man, what does she like about him? Although he doesn't need to know this himself, the maid came in and said that the mage mentor was looking for the mistress. She was going to go and return soon. Ray was holding a book in his hand and standing near the bookshelf. He really wanted to have a kind heart, even the smallest things. Without realizing it, he is jealous of everything. He wants the girl to get along with him. That's why Ray intends to be good at magic, studies, and etiquette, and also to grow in height. He wishes that Urina would always be with him. And she walked along the corridor and looked out the window. The rainy season was over. In the large hall, Urina stood near the maids in a beautiful blue dress. Ray approached her in a suit and invited her to dance. The girl noted his progress and agreed. They started dancing. The boy simply lacked training, but he turned out to be a natural genius. The young wizard quickly mastered the basics, letters and numbers, as well as magical knowledge from... Though the seasons changed once, Ray progressed well in dancing and manners. He got rid of the stigma of a commoner. The boy became a rising star of magic, sponsored by the Marquis of Cardia. He became tall enough to look down on the girl. While dancing, Ray asked, has he become a little cooler? Urina doesn't understand. Isn't he ashamed to praise himself? The lady felt his excitement, but it's good for someone who uses it for the first time after training. And he's been training for 2 months already. Good thing Urina's body remembers all of this. If it were so, the heroine would have a hard time adapting here. The girl advised her partner to always look into the face of the person he is dancing with while dancing. And since he knows, let him look at Urina. The young magician, as he said, has a thing that he wants to receive for his birthday, the girl thought. Here a year consists of 12 months. Each of them has a different name. The guy's birthday was in the fall, so this month is on the 19th. Betty squirmed in anticipation of this. Ray is displeased with the girl's reaction. Has she forgotten about his holiday? The lady smiles. Of course she remembers. She said, the 19th of the harvest month. She looked at the boy. Happy, he is the same as before, although refined. The boy hesitated, but Urina demands an answer. According to the boy, it is not a thing. The girl does not understand. Then it is a wish? She will listen to him and do everything if she can. But if it is something too much, then no. Is it really necessary to add so many exceptions? The guy asked. Urina appreciated it. He even knows how to use complex words. But how does she know what the guy wants? If he promises, it will lead to the collapse of the family. Ray is confused. Does she really think he will ask for something like that? Urina asked to say everything he thinks, but almost fell. The boy picked her up in his arms, and then apologized. He didn't mean to. Is the girl okay? The audience stared at them. Urina said that she wasn't so bad that she couldn't even walk anymore. The lady showed her leg with a bruise. Did it appear during their training? He should have told him. The girl assured that she was fine. Why didn't she say? Because she doesn't think it's necessary. And it doesn't hurt at all. Ray looked at the bruise and it seemed painful to him. Urina advises her friend to focus on improving his dancing skills. Ray continued to examine the girl's bruise. He asks to show it immediately as soon as a new one appears. He is ready to study harder so that this does not happen again. The Marquise wants to continue the conversation. So what does the guy want for his birthday? Ray wants to go out with her alone and spend time. He agrees to a banquet on the occasion of the holiday. In exchange, the guy wants to go outside the estate with the girl. Or is it impossible? According to Urina, it's not that it's impossible. It's just not entirely possible to be there together. A maid and an escort are needed. After learning etiquette, Ray learned to hide his facial expressions using a mask. If the boy doesn't mind taking a knight and a maid, is he ready to go? Sometimes she missed the boy's past in his difficult time. The young magician is surprised. Is it possible to go like that? The girl smiles. Of course. She loves him now. And it will be an interesting autumn. And soon Urina, surrounded by maids, stood in a room with a set table. When did they manage to get up and prepare all this? According to the maids, the props were prepared 2 weeks ago, and dessert and cold appetizers were served last night. Hot dishes were served in the morning. The Marquise believes that it was clearly difficult for the workers to work like that. Aren't the girls tired? Betty happily reported. Everyone likes to cook, they were interested. They tried well, but will Ray like it? The maid said they cooked, that the boy eats well, but they are not sure that he will like it. Urina thinks the young mage will appreciate it, since they cooked together in the morning. Betty expressed hope that it would be great if the guy liked the food. Then the Marquise asked, "Does everyone like Ray?" The maid agrees. There is no one in the mansion who does not like the boy. This is unexpected for Urina. According to the maid, even if Ray looks unhappy, he is cute if you look closely. Betty noticed this. She considers them unsuccessful, so it is better to throw them away. But for the lady, there is nothing terrible in this. Because when, if not now, will she eat them? Ray received sweets from Betty, and this improved their relationship. According to the maid, the boy sometimes receives something from other people too. Although he is dissatisfied, he is polite. The maid immediately remembers her younger brother. Urina thanked the maid for her good attitude towards the boy. She thought that there would be bad relations between them. Of course, the Marchioness did not count on such an organization of the birthday party. Betty remembered the boy's first days in the house. No matter how polite they were to him, he avoided them. So it can't be said that he avoided them. But gradually he began to open up to people. People who don't know how to be kind go through mistakes and trials until they become so. How can the maids not love Ray when he tries so hard? Announced the approach of Mr. Reynard. The girls prepared paper flowers for the guy's arrival. He came in and saw the maids with Urina. The Marchioness congratulated him on his birthday and asked, "He is 13 years old already, isn't he?" Today, he became a year older than the girl. Everyone in the hall sincerely congratulated Ray. From the abundance of feelings, he began to cry, although he assured that these were not tears. Urina began to feed the poor guy sweets. He was even a little surprised by such a reception. Ray did not expect to see so many people. Urina was surprised. Didn't they tell you about the party? The boy knew about it, but he expected to see a small cake. He had never had such a celebration in his entire life. There were no people who would arrange such a thing. Therefore, Ray is happy to hear simple congratulations. The heroine herself in this world, whether as a child or an adult, always celebrated her birthday with someone. Friends would come home for a party or go out to eat with my parents. If they couldn't meet, I would receive congratulations via phone calls or text messages. Good memories gave me strength on difficult days. With the love she received, the girl created a sense of security herself. Ray probably doesn't have such memories, but he should know. Having been born, the boy already made everyone happy. Beatty promised to make an even bigger cake next time. She is not very good at baking, but she improves her skills every year, so the boy can count on a maid next time. Urina suggested that he wait for the next birthday. In the meantime, eat faster and they will go where they agreed. Ray thanked everyone. The past cannot be changed, it remains to move on. The Marquise hopes that from this day on, the boy will have good memories of the day he was born. They rode in a carriage along the wide streets, and Ray would be absolutely delighted. Urina did not share this admiration. It's just a city. But the boy was here for the first time. It was autumn. There was nothing much to see. But was it worth looking around? Soon the four of them, including the guard, were standing on one of the streets. Betty noticed the boy's joy. Urina thinks it's a sense of déjà vu. It seems the same thing happened with the maid. By the way, did she get the item for the boy? Yes, Betty has everything ready. A pen and ink. The Marchioness didn't know whether to give the boy his gift. Ray is pleasantly surprised by this gift. Urina also gave him the ruby she had spoken about before. It sparkles like the boy's eyes. The girl does not understand what her friend is looking at so intently. The ruby was pinned to the collar of the guy's jacket. Ray decided to whisper to Betty, which caused the Marquise's displeasure. But the guys have a secret, they asked to wait. After that, Ray and Betty went away. Urena stayed with the guard. She was unhappy. And why did they suddenly leave? And when did they manage to get close? The Marchioness remembered the places and moments that she remembered, even though she had forgotten about them, since she was busy with Ray. Then people were hunting her, not the prince. Why? Curtis must be able to hold the throne. If he was hunted, the girl would not have déjà vu. A bad feeling arose. And then the guard came. They went together to find their friends. Then they saw Betty, whose path was blocked by knights with swords, and Ray, who was grabbed by the chin by some aristocrat. When Urena arrived, the maid explained that the boy had done nothing wrong. The Marquise realized that they were picking on him because of his red eyes. And the stranger held the boy and waited for an answer to the question. He was silent, and the aristocrat did not like it. The man wondered what family the boy was from. Urena came closer anyway. Explained. She was looking after this child. If he was impolite, she would ask forgiveness for him. I thought he was a commoner, since he was walking around with a maid without a knight. What ignorance. The eyes were red. And the man couldn't believe it, even after looking. Beatus was so close. But why couldn't he find it until now? And how did they learn the word beatus from ancient books? Red eyes are called a curse in this world. If a man knows that Beatus's eyes, have received the blessing of the goddess. It dawned on the girl. In front of her is Marquis de Fron. The Marquise wonders, are they from the Cardia family? In that case, before him is the daughter of the Marquis of Cardia, whom he takes such care of. The Marquis's daughter is the same age as Urena, so he hopes that the two of them will get along. There was a girl standing next to him. Urena recognized her. It was Lydia de Fron, the main character of the original, who was loved by Carrion. The Marquise's daughter thought that her peer was hurt and approached her. The girl knew what kind of groundless worry this was. In the original, Carrion loved Lydia because she genuinely cared about him. But now it's not Lydia, it's Urena. What if the guy falls in love with the Marquise de Fron from the very beginning? According to the Marquis, Cartia has held the sword for generations, and vice versa. Defron has long been on the path of magic. He also inherited the glory of his ancestors. Defron is better than Cartia. This is if you want your personal talent to be revealed properly. Ray suddenly bowed to the Marquis and apologized for the belated greeting. He did not immediately recognize such a nobleman. The boy recalled his stay under the patronage of the Cardia family. He introduced himself as Reynard and thanked him for the high assessment of his abilities, but the boy was happy with his position. According to the Marquis, the boy's name is translated from the ancient language as Hope. And since the name is written in an ancient language, then the boy's parents were magicians? Ray denied. They were not, and he did not get the name from his parents. The Marquis asked, in that case, Urena gave him the name? If she knows the ancient language, then he has not heard of her magical abilities. The girl explained. She learned a few words just for fun. Defron believes that the Marquise really did receive an outstanding treasure, and it is unknown whether the girl realizes what talent she has in her hand. Leaving, the Marquis said, maybe this is great luck. Urena suddenly went to the wall and leaned against it. Betty runs to her in horror, not understanding what happened. The Marquise asks no one to come near. She felt bad. Everything was turning upside down. Ray is ready to go and asks the maid to wait. She is against it, because adults need to accompany them together. Ray asks to come to their aid in case of danger. He needs to talk to the girl tête-à-tête now. The maid understands, and the Marchioness has taken off running. She needs to return before darkness approaches. Having come to this world, the girl got used to life here in her own way. Another language, way of thinking, people, appearance. The name Urena, which she could not get used to at first. At one point, it became so ingrained in her life that the unfortunate woman could not remember her real name. And when the girl began to forget the feeling of the soft sole of the sneakers, she began to have dreams. Terrible cold and strong surrounding noise. It seemed that forgotten memories became realistic feelings and enveloped the body. Hope that this wasn't reality. As if she had fallen while running, like always. She would open her eyes and be home. If only this had been a dangerous moment. If only this hadn't been the end at that moment. Urina woke up on the street. Ray was catching up with her. He grabbed her hand and the girl stopped. If she kept running like that, she would fall. It started to rain and they were at the threshold of some house. Urina asked the boy to go to Betty. Today is his birthday, but nothing special for the young magician. He does not want to leave. Besides, it is raining and there is no way to go back now. He looks at the girl. He asks if she is cold. Ray is hot. He is ready to give his friend some of his clothes. It is pouring rain and the girl is scared. So much so that she is not able to bear it. She tries to forget, but she dreams. Even if you don't dream, you still remember everything. That moment remains in the girl's memory and she can't forget it. She didn't live a good life, but that wasn't bad either. She was a simple person, like others, and she wanted to live on without incident. Even if something bad happened, she wanted to live on as if nothing had happened. The girl hates being alone. If the result was a lie after she saw the obvious. No, there is hatred here too. Living an ordinary life, the unfortunate woman hoped for another chance at an ordinary life. And she does not want to die. She wants to live. And if a situation happens that is different from what she expected, then the desire to live will remain. Sometimes Urina said complicated things that Ray did not understand. Now that he thinks about it, strange things appeared. According to the master, Urina was interested in one legend. When a boy appeared before her, she declared her intention to take him into her care because of his red eyes. He did not understand this, since the Marquise was rational. The girl did not seem like a child who would act on groundless stories. And Ray was puzzled when he realized this fact. That her wish to remember what happened that day and the need to save her when the Marquise was in danger. Ray thought about what she said all the time. And the more he thought about it, it was like the words of a person who was trying to prepare for something. The guy didn't know what his girlfriend was thinking, but it definitely wasn't going to happen. One thing is clear to the boy. When Urina is sad, he is sad. He promised to protect her. Does she remember their agreement? In exchange for kindness, Ray agrees to protect the girl. And if he fails, it will be a breach of contract. But Urina just complains and doesn't ask to be consoled. She's fine, but the boy interrupts. He doesn't try to console his friend, but he really intends to protect the Marquise. His skills in magic have improved. Let him ask the master. If everyone in the Empire starts seeing him as an enemy, no. Urina told him to study. Has he read any books yet? Ray kept promising to protect her and do everything so that the girl wouldn't be alone. He's ready to put his name on it. The Marquise was unhappy with her friend's desire to put his name on the promise. Actually, she gave it to him. And if he wants to promise, let him do it on his fingers. But the girl didn't like how the guy did it. He was embarrassed in response. Ray didn't know how to do it right. Shouldn't he put all 5 fingers? The Marquise again compared him to a child and asked for a hand, doing it right. Now Ray definitely promised. In the future, when Urina tries to forget, she will start dreaming again, and she will start shaking with fear. Now everything is different than before. She was given a new chance. The heroine may not perceive fate as before. They were standing on the embankment and the boy asked to look at the sunset. It was very beautiful. Urina agreed with him, and the boy reminded her of today's words. They were sincere. He would protect her no matter what. Ray wants to grow up soon and be the girl's support. Urina suggests going home as it will soon get dark. She asked what the name of the dog in his arms was. He answered, Bibi. In the girl's opinion, the nickname is banal. No, the name is known. And the magician himself wants to become a cool adult. Then the girl sat with her father and drank tea. He wondered if something had happened. The daughter was surprised. Something had to happen for her to have to meet him? The father agreed. Nothing should. He remembered the hustle and bustle in the house and asked how they spent their time. According to the Marchioness, it was good. Everyone tried. Yes, everything went well, except for that meeting. The girl reminded her father about the not very good relations between her family and Defron. The parent cannot say that they are positive, but the official position of that family is different from there. But even so, the relationship with them is not so bad. The Marquise thought that the father simply did not want to tell the truth because of his daughter's young age. But she and Ray were raised in such a way that they could not reveal their true feelings to others. The ability to hide them is considered aristocratic etiquette. Marquis de Franc clearly showed his feelings for the girl on the street. Is he careless because Urena is still a child? Or maybe she is very worried about this Marquis and is very sensitive. Judging by the father's reaction, it's nothing serious. Perhaps something happened inside Defran that could have caused the one-sided anger? The parent wonders if the daughter met that Marquis outside the estate today. Did he do what to her? Is that why my daughter is asking? According to Urena, Defran simply acted like he was Ray's patron. Even when she said the guy was under their protection, he acted like he didn't hear anything. The girl wonders if the Marquis behaved this way because she is from the Cardia family. Her father asks her not to pay attention. And anyway, it was a good day, and she was probably scared. Everything is fine now. Dad is nearby. Urena understands that her parent cannot know about her problems, but his kindness and desire to protect calm her down. The heroine hopes that such a world will continue in the future. In the evening, Urena sat at the door of her bedroom from the inside. There were more things to do, and the girl was tired, even falling into depression. Physical fatigue is just fatigue, but changes in emotions also cause exhaustion. And Urena was tired because she was moving, but it's different with emotions. Even if you encounter her trauma, there's no one to tell. And who would believe such absurdity? And I don't want to talk, even though there were kind people to her. They will start looking at the Marquise strangely. The girl heard her name outside. She opened the door and saw Ray. He doesn't understand why he opened it so abruptly. He was surprised that he even screamed, and he didn't call his friend. He was just going to knock. Urena thought that the young talent would be the most upset when he found out all this. The boy promised to protect the girl. He trusted her. How would Ray react if he learned that Urena was kind to him for a reason? The boy noticed the strange expression on the Marquise's face. What's wrong with her? The lady asks to come into the room. She doesn't understand why the guy always comes in late. According to the night guest, only at this time of day can they be alone. These words interested Urena. What will he do with her, beautiful? Excited Ray asked the girl to calm down. Is he ashamed? But the older sister will forgive the poor guy. The girl is lying down on the chair. The boy is worried. Is she lying too freely? The girl recalled how Ray had taken off his clothes in front of him earlier and nothing happened. He didn't understand why the Marquise was recalling this incident. It had been a long time ago. They couldn't figure out who to tell first. Urena suggested that the guest speak first. He came for this, and she had nothing important. The guy admitted the same. He just wanted to know how the girl was feeling. And he thought he would find out something. The guy tried hard in karate, told funny stories, and now he came to check the mood. Urena is sure that she really gets a lot of love. And is his care directed at her? Or at the real Marquise? Melancholy makes you worry about things that usually don't bother the girl. You need to get back to the mundane. Urena answered the guest. Everything is fine, but she is tired of work. And what did he want to ask? Ray keeps thinking about that conversation. He thought about asking about it. The girl is ready to answer. Let him ask. The Marchioness wondered if the guy noticed something in her reckless statements. The lady's fingers were numb again from the slightest anxiety and anticipation. Question. Does the young mage's name translate to hope? Actually, he didn't want to ask, but he didn't know what to do, so he blurted it out suddenly. And he actually brought her a gift, which he hid behind himself. Before that, the boy stood outside with a maid. She conveyed the Marquise's wish to choose a gift for the boy for his birthday, and Ray chooses it for the girl instead. He considered this gift intended for both Urena and himself. Then in the room, he asked timidly, suddenly misspoke. When he heard the answer about his name, his heart began to beat faster. Reynard is Hope. Even the boy's parents gave him the name without any feelings. And here is such a good meaning. He wonders why he was named that. After all, until now the boy had heard monster and demon and so on. The girl asked why the guest was so interested in this. In his opinion, her friend considered the young magician special to her. The Marquise admitted, he is her hope. After all, he is obliged to protect the lady, and therefore such a person should be given a special name. And he came late for such a question? The girl satisfied the guest's curiosity. Let him go. Without realizing it, Ray pulled out a gift. The girl asked Six was this what he went for with Betty? Urena kept wondering where they had gone together. So, they had gone to buy this? The boy opened the box, took out the bracelet, and handed it to his girlfriend. He was giving the thing to her, since today he was the only one who had received everything all the time. According to the Marquise, this is natural, because it is the guy's birthday. Ray, however, was thinking of giving the bracelet to Urena, though earlier. The lady considers the thing similar in style to that very brooch. Ray went limp. He hadn't even thought of buying something similar. The Marquise smiled when comparing the two gifts. She was glad that they tasted similar. She thanked the guest. Urena asked to help her put the bracelet on her hand. The boy did it. The girl reminded him that it was his boyfriend's birthday and he needed to buy himself a present. And he chose her one. The celebration was once a year, but Ray did what he wanted. He confessed his desire to make her happy, make her smile, and spend her birthday with her. The girl gave him a name, took care of the boy, so Ray longs to make his friend happy. This is the best gift for his birthday. The Marchioness once again thanked the boy for such a gift. She finds the bracelet as beautiful as the guest's eyes. If only she knew how much the guy wants things to be like this forever. The magician was referring to everyday life with the Marquise. Can he stay with her like now? Always? And not go to the academy? Then they sat in another room and Urena froze. This is the coldest day in history. Ray thinks it's cold because the girl has grown so beautiful. She sees changes in him within the bounds of nobility, but he's still nasty. And the body of the original Marquise is weak. Although it is really cold here. Ray had never seen a person who got cold so easily. Where he lived, it was a flower bed. The guy brought tea, and that was all he could do for her. The lady thanked him. If the tea gets cold, the young magician will heat it up. At some point, he became so noble that you can't tell him apart from an aristocrat. He performs even small actions differently, and his magical skills became stronger. But soon, Ray will leave for the academy. Classes were conducted in the common imperial language for foreigners, but the guy somehow mastered the language, so life there will not cause him any inconvenience. Now he needs to get ready, to receive a letter of admission to the academy. Ray opened the window and showed the girl the falling snow, and she said that it was cold and snowing. Like the first snow that falls prematurely, so soon will come a brief farewell. Urena feels devastated that he will soon leave for the academy. There was a man, Ray, Betty, Urena, and Dave in the room. The stranger was praising the boy. With such talent, he didn't need an interview. The man suggested that the boy go to the academy right away, but isn't that possible? Ray still has to listen to the explanation. The man had been teaching at the academy for a long time, but it was the first time he had seen such talent. Then Betty praised the boy, because he didn't even have to take an exam. She is surprised that the academy professor reacted like that and is proud of the guy. Does Urena think so too? She was thinking about something and did not pay attention to the maid's words. The maid began to repeat her. She asked if the mistress needed cookies, but the Marchioness doesn't want cookies. Betty went off to do her work and suggested that the lady call her if needed. Urena thought how many memories she had with Ray. More than she thought. The boy was accepted without an exam. She knew it, but it was still incredible. How quickly time flies, and just recently Ray had to learn table etiquette. He himself appeared in front of her and asked why the girl was hanging around. Ray finished talking to the professor and suggested walking in the snow. They went outside and the guy felt the cold. He noticed how the lady's nose turned red. She had an association with Rudolph. The boy didn't know who. The girl explained. There is one red-nosed deer. The young magician doesn't understand. Where did she see such a creature? He took her face in his hands and asked, "Is it warmer this way?" Sometimes there are things better than magic. Ray remembered his stay at the shelter. When it started snowing, they would play snowballs and make a snowman. The children forgot about the cold then, because they were all alike. They played in the snow and felt happy. The days when it snowed were special. They didn't happen every year. But there were good days and bad days. I asked the Marchioness, too. The answer was yes. I remembered her words. I didn't listen carefully then, but seeing such weather, he wouldn't have survived the winter. Now Ray hates it when it snows. And it's because of her, Urena. The reason is that the boy lives in warmth and studies magic because the girl chose him. The Marquise saved the boy. The Marquise is sure that even if it weren't for her, fate would have brought them both together anyway. So let her not thank him. If it weren't for her, Defron would have taken the boy. If it weren't for the Marquise, the boy could have been happy with Lydia. But Ray is glad that fate brought them together. He doesn't even want to go to the academy. After all, he won't be able to return to the Empire until graduation. The training period is 7 years. If the boy doesn't finish his studies, it will be a pain in the ass. It would be good for her to explain to him that this is a short farewell, and the smallest price is a separation of 7 years. In the girl's opinion, the Krona Academy is considered one of the best, and for a guy, it is the best choice. If he wasn't dear to her, Urena wouldn't have sent the boy there. They'll meet again, Ray reminded her. He has to protect her. He doesn't need academies. The boy is here because he trusted the Marquise, and she's leaving him. Urena does not abandon the boy, but he must go to the academy. There he will not meet Defron, learn more, and return home to protect the girl. Or does the boy want to study here with Dave? If Ray and Lydia run into each other, there is no guarantee that he will fall in love with her at first sight. Because he promised the Marquise. Destiny or not, you have to throw everything away. Trust him and live as you do now. Since Ray is glad that fate brought them together, how is it now? The boy has a question for the girl about when they first met. Was she sure that Ray had magic skills when she looked into his eyes? The guy heard that the reason for this was that his girlfriend heard a story somewhere. He thought that Urena decided to sponsor the guy out of curiosity. And in the boy's memory, it was not the girl's curious face, but a happy one. Urena doesn't understand what he's talking about. She was glad to see them because she felt joy that she wouldn't have to die, and a sense of accomplishment because she was able to change her destiny. Urena won't tell this secret to anyone. No one will believe him anyway. But can he be told? Will he believe it? It sounds funny for a boy, but he asked, did the Marchioness know about their upcoming meeting? Yes, Urena was looking for the boy, but she wouldn't tell him how she found out about his existence. Although she really wanted to meet the boy. Ray put her hand on his cheek. They were silent for a while. Ray always thinks a lot and then acts. He should know that Urena is not just sending her favorite there. The boy agrees to go to the academy and will do everything the Marquise says. Ray left for the Kingdom of Kron with the people from the academy. Urena saw him off and watched the carriage go. In the room, Betty asked to call her if needed. The mistress also asked the maid to go and rest. One man left, but it became so quiet, as if the whole mansion was empty. The Marchioness read in the note the promise of a friend to do everything and return. His handwriting, writes like a chicken. The girl smiled sweetly. She will wait and they will meet again. And Ray was riding in the carriage and recalling his previous conversations with Urena, how she asked to come into the house because of the cold. The girl really did not want the guy to leave. When the Marchioness told him that she knew about the long separation because of the academy without realizing it, Ray could hardly contain his emotions. He felt betrayed by the Marchioness, as if only he could be with her. Ray wanted Urena not to forget him until she returned to the academy. Upon arrival, the boy was taken to his room. Earlier, he had seen other students who entered the classroom several at a time. According to the escort, it was because of the Marquise's concern. Well, since the guy was brought by Professor Hudson, he was a special student. Ray looked around the room. The decor was luxurious. What should he do without the girl? The guy was offered to have dinner with the professor, but Ray doesn't want to. He's not hungry and will just go to bed. The escort didn't try to persuade him and gave him a magic item for long-distance communication. But with this thing, you can't contact the Empire. Ray is not upset. He thought so. The escort suggested the boy to rest because he was tired today. The student remembered his room in the House of Cardia. His new room here is smaller, but it is too spacious for one person. Most likely, it is because Urena is not around. 7 years in a row? The same thing, study and more study. It was the same routine as in the mansion. But at least it wasn't boring there. On the contrary, Ray wished for the morning to come sooner so he could study with the Marquise. He had to hold out without her here. Ray hopes for a busy schedule to make him feel better. But the boy still misses his girlfriend. And in the mansion, Urena entered the boy's bedroom, although Betty does not understand why she did this. This room has already been cleaned, but Ray's things are still here. The maid offered the lady some warm milk to help her sleep. But Urena's brothers will arrive during the summer holidays and may move into the room. The estate is quiet. It's hard to get used to it. The Marquise knows that she will definitely meet the boy, but the wait is unbearable. She wishes for Ray that the time would pass quickly. When the student woke up, he saw an unfamiliar guy in front of him. He was surprised by his red eyes. Ray noted that they were not a landmark to just look at. The stranger apologized for his rudeness. He didn't even introduce himself. He called himself Aiden Tessia. The boy comes from an estate in the south of the kingdom. They sat at the table and Ray listened to Aiden. The boy didn't like the latter because of his talkativeness. The new guy had already told everything 3 times. Several days had passed since they had met. Then they walked down the corridor and Aiden shouted that, "It's incredible." Ray stopped and turned to him. They already knew that his eyes were unusual. He had already forgotten while living in the mansion. People outside of it are not very friendly. Someone was afraid of his eyes, but soon the new friend will soon change his mind and reject with angry words. And Urena is not around. Aiden calmed him down. He just saw a freshman of the same age for the first time. Ray started to speak about justification, but his friend interrupted him. He spoke for his comrade's face. The student's homeland is a remote rural area, and there are no such fair-haired and fair-skinned people as Ray. It was the first time he had seen such a handsome guy as Reynard. Yes, Aiden is not a girl. He can't just go and tell a guy that he is handsome. It would be weird. Ray finds it very weird. Aiden offered to drive all this, but his new friend is really handsome. Then he asked what his name was. Ray thought it was strange, but he still gave his first name, but not his last name. Aiden is surprised. According to him, the new friend, if not an aristocrat, looks like him. The guy admitted that he often hears such things. The chatterbox did not lag behind and offered to go to lunch with him. Ray fought back as best he could and suggested going to eat with someone else. But Aiden's roommate didn't show up, and he didn't want to go to the dining room himself. Had Ray's neighbors arrived yet? He was surprised by his friend's talkativeness. Ray reported having a private room and no neighbors. This surprised his friend. But how could he have such a room if he said he was not an aristocrat? He was a child of wealthy relatives. Ray hinted at having a sponsor. He felt like this new guy was forcing friendship on him. He would tell Aiden everything, but he wouldn't believe him. And anyway, he would go and let him do whatever he wanted. The new guy is ready to tell about his home, but he wants to hear a story from Ray too. The guy is so interested that he can't fall asleep. Ray turned around and blurted out a few words about a patron from the Zenosian Empire, but the new guy doesn't know him. Chatterbox wonders if his friend came alone. Answer, no, with Professor Hudson and his mentor. Aiden is surprised how it happened. Is his friend also a freshman? Poor Ray wonders if he goes to the cafeteria with him. Will he shut up? They got along, but Aiden followed his new friend everywhere. One evening, Ray sat by the bed in the bedroom. A lot had happened during the day. His friend's father is a baron, that is, also an aristocrat. But he is also talkative, even if it is so. But the newcomer is such a village, so it is difficult to take him for an aristocrat. Ray already knew everything about the Aiden family and why he is in the academy. And he repeated all the information 3 times. Ray remembered Urena and almost cried. He shouldn't do that. In the morning, he had no time for it because of Aiden. But at night, the poor man couldn't overcome his loneliness. If the Marquise found out about his tears, she would think that he wasn't used to it here, and would start to worry. The boy didn't want his friend to be sad. Maybe she had forgotten him, or maybe she remembered him. He couldn't get rid of loneliness and fear. There was a knock at the door. Who was there at such an hour? The teacher? Voice of Aiden. The boy does not understand why he came, but he opens the door. Aiden is glad that his friend is not sleeping, but asks if he woke him up. He answers that he did not. But why is he here? The newcomer asked permission to sleep in his bedroom. Aiden's room, a neighbor named Nison snores in his sleep. But he will sleep, relieve fatigue, and stop snoring. So he asks to sleep only today. The guy looked at his friend's red eyes. Was he crying? Ray didn't answer and suggested to come in. In the bedroom, Aiden was wondering if his friend was homesick. He himself was homesick, but he had friends, so everything was fine. And he asked if Ray wanted to take his neighbor. Ray reminded him that he had only let him in for the night. And then Aiden started telling him about the rumors about Ray's eyes. Were they very well known at the academy? The boy became wary. What had they already said about his eyes? Ray remembered the words of the seamstress who would never have made clothes for the frightening child if it weren't for Cardia. But just being near him is terrifying. Had rumors spread? Would he have to listen to it all over again? The boy went through this. There is no her nearby who liked the boy's eyes. Aiden remembered that his friend's eyes are the blessing of the goddess. And thanks to this, Ray's skills in magic are simply incredible. Perhaps the reason the professor brought the boy here is because of his genius. Ray wonders who said that. The answer, Alex, another chatterbox neighbor. And Alex's father is also a magician. He heard it from him. Aiden couldn't remember the word. Beatus. Ray had already forgotten about it. Aiden is glad that the word came to mind. He is sure that his friend is incredible in any case. The talkative boy is glad that such an incredible person as Ray has become his friend. He asked, is he his first friend? They ate together for the first time. Is he a friend? Thought Reynard. Before this, he could only call Urina a friend, and no one else approached him first. After a few days of acquaintance, can you consider a person a friend? Or does he call everyone comrades? Aiden considers himself Ray's first friend at the academy. The boy told about his existing friend. The rural aristocrat is surprised. He asked, is this person also studying here? But Aiden doesn't need to know about this. The persistent child wants to be the second friend of the new guy. Too bad, not the first. Ray was surprised by such words. He doesn't understand how you can divide your comrades. They are all the same and just friends. Aiden smiles good-naturedly and agrees with him. Soon he fell asleep, and Ray remembered how he used to be indignant because of Urina's unwillingness to be with him in class. And she was actually looking for information about the boy's peculiarity so that he would not suffer. Mentally asked for forgiveness and thanked the Marquise. Promised to become cool and return to her. It's less than half the love she gave the boy, but he will definitely become an incredible magician. Just let him wait. Near the colonnade of the Ray Palace read a letter from Urina. She was interested in his affairs and noted that a month had already passed since his departure. The girl believes that when the guy receives the letter, he will already be enrolled in the academy. The boy was being watched by two people. One of them brought him to the bedroom to show him where he would live. The other one, wearing glasses, called Ray a rare talent at the academy. Yes, this is the will of the Cardia family. If he were the professor, he would teach the boy himself. If you think about it, how far apart are the Empire and the Kingdom? The professor considers studying at the institution a good development for the boy. The man in glasses is sure that the Empire will soon be in chaos. Hunter asks his colleague to put this worry aside. Spring has come and the wind is getting warmer every day. At this time, it is the Marchioness's birthday. She regrets that they cannot be together on such a special occasion, so she will consider the bracelet given to her by the guy as a gift from him. She considered the boy's absence unbearable. Years passed. Urina grew up and wrote letters to Ray, receiving news from him too. One day she was sitting in the shade in the garden at the table. She brought Betty something to drink. The maid saw the paper. Are these letters from Reynard? She asked. Yes. And Urina could not answer her friend these days because she was busy. According to the maid, the guy would be happy to receive the message. The Marchioness allowed this. Betty remembered how much time had passed since the day she saw Ray. The housekeeper misses the times when they had fun in the house. The Marquise missed her too. The guy entered the academy a long time ago. The seasons changed many times, and at some point the empty mansion was filled with warmth. Ray got to the academy and was prepared for the unexpected. But until Defron took drastic action. Through Ray and Dave's letters, the girl wanted to understand the situation around them. But there was nothing unusual. Urina asked herself, Should she be happy with the thought that everything was calm? The struggle for power in the country had intensified recently. In some places, there was a feeling of uneasiness. In such a situation, the future heir to the throne, Curtis, decided to hold a coming-of-age ceremony. Urena wanted to refuse, but received an invitation to the celebration. But she rejected him. It was not worth getting involved with the heir. But even if it weren't for that, the Marchioness had no intention of going there. Things could end badly if you got involved with people in power under such circumstances. To keep the prince from looking for the Marchioness, she announced her intention to go to the mansion after spending the summer with her brothers at the family estate. Work is work, no matter if it's Defron or Curtis. But for Urena, it was enough that Ray was fine. Then she arrived at a large trading city with ships and was surprised by its size. She saw people working, preparing for a festival that would take place in a few days, and no one cares about the Marquise and her servants. I remembered a boat ride with Dave and Ray. I wanted to meet them again like that, and I haven't talked to the magician for a long time. Apparently, he's busy after returning to the academy. Except for the rare news from Ray, the girl has not seen her old acquaintance. And when it turns out that the Imperial family will arrive, the work at the market is in full swing. Soon the coming-of-age ceremony, and people are busy with business. If the same thing were happening in the capital, Urena wouldn't even pay attention to this outskirts. And judging by people's concern about public opinion, they are clearly worried. Nearby, two guys lost control of a box of apples and dropped them, and the fruit rolled across the square. The grocery item almost hit a girl, but someone pulled her back. Why, when everything is going well, does the unexpected happen? It was the Crown Prince. What was he doing here? He began to accuse the Marquise of carelessness. The future king admitted that he was worried about the girl's well-being, but he was calm now. She looked healthy, and she was even walking around the market. Someone put a cloak of sorts on the prince. He was wearing a simple shirt. Someone noticed that if the heir continued to walk like this, he would find himself in the center of attention. Moreover, he promised to be careful. It was a smiling Dave. The prince admitted that he was observing everything. The magician greeted the Marchioness. Urena stood and was surprised, not understanding what was going on here. She didn't understand why they were here together. Dave pointed out that if they continued to stand there, it would disturb the other merchants. The prince thought that his acquaintances had much to discuss, but he himself would be in a bad position. After all attention will be focused on the prince. The festival opens tonight, so Curtis thinks he'll stand out less then. If Urena wants to talk, then later. They left her. In the mansion, Urena walked down the corridor. Betty followed her. The lady was interested in where her brothers were. According to the maid, Advon was outside and Justin was in the office. And nothing happened. The Marchioness wants to question them. The maid will bring tea to the master's study. Justin told his sister about the events that had shaken the Empire. She knew nothing about it. His brother reminded them how they had talked about it in front of everyone. Justin asked, "And during this time, nothing happened?" According to his sister, nothing. But the Imperial family visited the estate. She asked not to talk about everything. The heir spoke on the occasion of the ceremony about plans to travel around the main cities of the country. This is the first time something like this has happened in the Empire. Since the prince intends to get to know the people, he has forbidden greeting them or addressing them. It may be amusing, but there is no need to worry. All the places the heir will visit have been approved. Urena wonders if the prince will visit them alone. Her brother thinks it's impossible, because if anything happened, the Empire would be in an uproar. And at such a time, too. Marquise is about to leave. She asks her brother to let her know if anything happens. She walked down the corridor and thought. It turns out she didn't know about some things. She was just worried about him and Defron after Ray was sent to the academy. Curtis Xenosian is the eldest son of the monarch, born to Empress Aelin, princess of the Kingdom of Krone. Because of this, he had many rights and legitimacy to inherit the throne, but there was also a drawback. This is the lack of a political foundation to support it. The Empress had no political foundation in the country, as she was the princess of the Kingdom of Krone. But while Aelin was alive, she was in the shadow of the court. When Curtis was 8 years old, the Empress died, and her home kingdom had no reason to participate in the Empire's politics. And so the vacant place of ruler was filled by Queen Janissa. She is the only daughter of one of the 4 princes of the Empire. 3 years later, the queen gave birth to the crown prince. The second heir, Philip and Janissa, with the support of the dukes from among the supporters, conflicted with Curtis. Curtis grew up in an unequal struggle for power since childhood. With such a past behind him, he became someone who is obsessed with power. This was the reason why he left Urena in the original. And the prince chose the Marquise also because of power. Then he chose Lydia because of Ray. No, because of the existence of Carrion. Curtis craved a powerful authoritarian force to support himself. But it is still a long way off until the name of Reynard, the genius of the century, becomes famous in the kingdom and the empire. Only Urena knows about it now. And Curtis is not aware of such information. Ray's alliance with Lydia and the difficulty of the prince's connection with the magician are different things. But in the end, the same fate awaits them. In other words, the main character needs to avoid the prince and Defron. The first one will obviously want to see Ray behind. But in this case, he will look better if he ends up in a good relationship with Urena. Therefore, she will continue to stay away from him so as not to get into a bad story. What if he contacts Ray without contacting the Marquise? What if it is Dave and not her? The girl does not know yet, but if Ray's existence is revealed, the prince will try to get him. This may not affect Urena, or vice versa. If Curtis contacts Ray, he will easily contact Urena. Then everything becomes more complicated. The girl tried to make sure that everything did not happen like in the novel. No, she cannot break the plan. Whatever happens, it is important to understand the situation. Urena decided to meet Dave. She came to the festival in a white coat. She went alone, but there was no other choice. She tried to find a way to contact Dave, but everything failed. That's why Urena wanted to suggest meeting at the mansion upon their return, although it wasn't the best time. They hadn't agreed on a place or time, and it would be reckless to be without protection at such a time. The Marquise now has an extraordinary appearance, so it is easy to recognize her. Still, she must go. Curtis approached from behind in a black cloak. In his opinion, the lady moves well without protection, being an aristocrat. Urena reminded him of the words about problems if he starts to stand out. And then the guy wondered, did he say that he came with Lord Curtis? The girl stood with a surprised face. She did not understand anything. They stood and looked at the life of the market. The girl thought, has this man always been like this? Isn't he cold? And behaves like a snake in the grass. Walking with him is exhausting. And what to do? Leave unnoticed and talk to Dave. You need to say something like, if nothing important, then you need to go. But for now, you should be in silence. But if Urena and Curtis were talking, then the conversation would not work, because in front of her is the heir. Obviously, the prince communicates with the magician for some purpose. But for what? Knowing her, it would be easier for the Marquise to act further. Curtis looked at his companion. He had talked to her a lot, but she did not listen. They walked past the rows. The prince admitted that during his walks here, the market seemed huge to him. Urena wondered if it was dangerous to walk here alone. She knew about his visits to the cities for the ceremony, but it does not seem that the prince is making official visits, as he wants to see the real life of the citizens. The Marchioness was in a hurry to get to the main point, but spoke about the danger of walking alone here. Curtis agrees that it is dangerous, but if not now, when will he be able to walk freely on the street? In the future, more people will be looking at him, and the prince will be responsible for critics of his actions. This tour is meant to give people a glimpse into their lives, but it's also the last chance for Curtis to have fun. And if the prince has any problems along the way, it doesn't mean he's the only one. If this is fate, he must accept it. But the future emperor is not obliged to say such irresponsible things. And he asked the girl, is it irresponsible? She confirmed. The prince does not think that one should be pessimistic just because of cruel fate. It is not time to talk about it, but there is concern about it. While walking, they came to a tree on which a woman was sitting, and below stood 2 girls. The woman tried to get the balloon, but couldn't. The girls, one older, one younger, thought about calling adults for help. According to Urena, if people come, they will have problems and need to leave. Curtis moved forward, which surprised his companion. Where was he going? The prince decided to help and return immediately. Having climbed the tree, he took out the ball and gave it to the girls. They thanked him joyfully and left. Urena thinks he could have gotten hurt, but the heir assured him that he was fine. Curtis could have been the center of attention and people would have recognized him. The prince thinks otherwise. People would have come and helped anyway. Urena continued to speak for caution. Curtis was confused. Was she angry? They were arguing, but the Marchioness noticed that it was already late and time to leave. No benefit for her. If she had stayed and walked further, they would have left anyway. The prince decided to apologize for himself and give the girl something. They entered a wooded area where unusual multicolored lanterns were burning. According to Curtis, this place was decorated as if by merchants from overseas. It looks unusual. The Marchioness agreed with this, as if she too was overcome with nostalgia. "Does she miss you?" asked the prince. Urena hesitated and decided to stop this conversation with herself. If she misses him, then she has seen something like that somewhere? "Exactly," she answered. Why is the prince picky? Curtis wonders if you can miss something you have never seen or experienced before. He means the girl doesn't even remember, and there is no evidence of this. But there is a feeling of longing for someone and something. They were not acquainted and did not spend time together. And with each new meeting, nostalgia arises, as if Curtis and Urena had seen each other a long time ago. Since childhood, the prince had a dream where the same thing happened. He doesn't remember it well, but in it, Curtis was happy. Waking up, he felt a strong melancholy. The dream seemed to last forever, but one day it stopped. Then the prince met the Marchioness and the dream started again. Urena was in it, and Curtis was cold there. Nothing like that happened after that. The heir was left with only meaningless feelings. He longed to meet her, so he thought to get rid of the melancholy and emotions he felt when meeting Urena. For the Marchioness, it was none of her business, of course. But if she was that person from the dream and someone with that character wanted to meet her, the girl would not be happy about that. If she can change the future, then the past cannot. Apparently, this is fate. If Curtis met him, he would say as she did. The prince thinks Urena came here because of Lord Cest. The Marchioness is not against talking to him. The heir is ready to ask his companion something himself. She didn't come because she didn't want Cest to deal with the prince? Yes. But Urena hesitated, saying there was a misunderstanding. Curtis asks not to misunderstand him, but the girl shouldn't worry. It's just a personal relationship. He means that the Marquise doesn't have to worry about anything because no one will know about it? If they know the same Lord Cest, Urena doesn't think this man is mercenary, and the prince thinks she has much more to say. There are many people among the nobility, some for the prince and some against. He needs sincere faces to conduct the right policy, but they did not seem to have a chance to show it. The longer the loneliness, the greater the cold-bloodedness, the more difficult it is to understand people. The prince is lucky enough to meet the lord, and it is nice to be honest with someone who communicates as a friend. But Curtis can't do this anymore, because he has more important things to do. He can't always be childish. It must be hard for the Marquise to believe him, but if she has any doubts, she should ask Lord Cest. Urena is angry. She never said anything like that. Curtis thinks she really can't be honest. The Marchioness has no reason not to believe in the presence of the heir's friends when he walks alone through the night streets and helps to get the balls from the trees. Curtis considered this judgment normal, and he is glad to meet them. The girl thinks it's all risky and asks Curtis to be careful. Yes, he remembers. The couple went their separate ways to their respective lodgings. The night was ending. In the morning, Urena got sick. Yesterday, she was tense and it was hard to come home. She kept watching and getting nervous, which is why she can barely move now. What pain. She didn't really listen to the conversation about sleep. If the Marquise were the person in the dream, but she hardly felt happy. And she just said it when she heard it. And what kind of dream is this? But if the prince doesn't remember, then the Marquise won't know more about him. She came excited Betty, who brought the ladies something to drink. Urena apologized guiltily for the trouble she had caused the girl. She asked if there was anyone outside. According to the maid, there was the master. He would leave because he had business nearby. Urena left the room and saw Dave. He was smiling and knew about his friend's poor health, but the Marquise considers herself to be completely fine. She has no doubts, but she can't do anything about it. She offered to talk to the magician because there were a lot of questions. The girl remembered her farewell to the prince. Then she thanked him for seeing her home. And tomorrow, Curtis's tour of the cities would end. According to the heir, in a huge empire, it takes a long time to travel around the cities, and he did not think to spend much time on the ceremony. Long thoughts about a stupid dream lead to anxiety about its embodiment. On the path of life, people make friends, and when this happens, they have a choice between reason and feelings. That dream can be caused by anxiety and fear of losing something if the choice is wrong. Whatever the situation, all the consequences are the result of the prince's choice, so there is nothing to regret. The Marchioness thanked Curtis again and will not seek him out again for something like that. Some kind of anxiety and tension. She would have overcome it if she had wanted to. The girl did not want to ask. It seemed that nothing would happen if she did not ask. Already in the room, she asked Dave why he was so anxious. No, Miss didn't tell the magician anything and left alone. Dave, in Urina's understanding, spoke honestly, but that's not the point. The Marquise is saying this because she didn't argue yesterday. And what connects the magician with the prince? Let him not be afraid and tell. Urina met him yesterday. The magician was surprised by what he heard. The Marchioness understands that this is personal for a friend, but it is important for her to know. Dave thinks that this is not something she should worry about. The girl may not believe it, but the magician is friends with Curtis without any intentions. He was lonely at a young age. The magician thought how good it would be to throw off the burden of responsibility for a while. When there was a place, the exchange of phrases became the basis for the development of the relationship. The prince was watched, and Dave thought, it is impossible to become more attached. But he saw how the always indifferent face lights up with a smile, and it is difficult to push away. But this is their last meeting. Many people are looking at the heir now, but when he grows up, he will become more serious. It will be better to stop meeting by the end of the coming-of-age ceremony. So the magician and the prince decided to spend time together. And it's a problem that they didn't cross paths with the Marquise. Dave suggested focusing on the event, but Curtis is stubborn. The magician asked the Marquise, "Is it hard to believe?" Urina told how the prince got the ball from the tree for the children. He was surprised. The boy himself told His Highness about the impossibility of agreeing to such adventures, and the Marchioness said the same, but the heir did not listen. The girl sweetly considers the magician a caring person. Dave replied, "That's why he doesn't engage in politics. That's why Curtis left his friend." He is shocked. Did the prince think so? But wasn't the magician abandoned? He asked to say that it's all a joke. Urina smiles. She didn't think that Dave was greedy for power. She was worried because she knew him from one side. And these are her thoughts. That's why she wanted to meet to sort things out. But Dave is Dave. That's how the Marquise knows him. She worked herself up so hard that she collapsed from exhaustion. But fortunately, nothing serious. The magician smiles again and apologizes for the trouble. They decide to forget everything. Urina asks Dave to tell Betty not to worry before leaving. She is worried because the atmosphere between them is not very good. The girl is left alone. It is all too much for her. There is no need to think and draw conclusions for everyone. When you decide everything alone, even a good thing risks going wrong. Meeting and parting are not something that is done alone, and the decision should be made together if possible. Don't forget the sensible words. Urina stood with the prince. If she didn't want to get involved, she could have said nothing. But if she made that face, she couldn't turn away. She wasn't consoled, but she hoped it would help her find answers. In a dark room, a man was kneeling before Marquis de Fron. The aristocrat lets him go and asks him to be careful. Lydia entered Dot. Father asked what she was doing here. The girl is going to her father's bank and tried to cook for him. The Marquis reproaches the little girl for doing nonsense, as if she is busy. He asks her to do what he has assigned. After all, she finds time for such nonsense. Lydia's eyes are watering. She asks her dad for forgiveness. And Urina is flooded with memories. On the day when it was snowing, she got into an accident. Blurred vision, hoarse voice. The terrible winter made sure that the girl's loved ones were not around. If there is a God. If there is a chance for her life to blossom. A happy second life will be more important than even big money. Yes, it is an existing novel, the details of which she does not remember. The heroine was dying, but even in eternal nightmares, she wants to change her fate. This secret oppresses her with its burden. Everything changes, and she wants to see Ray next to her. He is a ray of hope in the girl's life. Then Urina and Betty come to the city. The girls are surprised by the large amount of snow that has fallen. There is more of it than usual. They decided to buy everything they needed before all the paths were covered with snow. Finally, the necessary things were bought. And then the Marchioness saw a girl walking ahead. The maid does not understand where the mistress is looking. Much time had passed since the Marchioness had seen the prince. After the coming-of-age ceremony, there was a stagnation in high society. Dave did not see anything outstanding in the lady, and their relationship became estranged. The mage is still cold, but will soon return to his normal state, and the Marquise lived peacefully thanks to the family's grace. On the way back in the carriage, Urina touched on the topic of Ray's birthday next year. Betty suggested going and meeting him, but Urina doesn't think it's a good idea. She doesn't want to go far beyond the estate until she comes of age. The maid has the opposite opinion. The Marchioness is worried that the meeting will have a negative impact on the boy's studies, but Betty reasonably reminds him of the daily letters to the boy. He will obviously be happy. Does the maid think so? The Marchioness decides to talk to her father about it. In the mansion, Betty asks the young man to give a letter to Ray because they are close friends. She has no one else to ask, and Ray will not accept anything unless it is from the guy. He asks why, if the student will not listen to him. The maid threatened to get angry if the guy didn't pass it on. He eventually agreed. After a while, the guy knocked on the door of the academy and called Ray. It was hard for him to be friends with the handsome guy. Ray opened the door and asked to get down to business. The porter smiled. A message from the one who waits daily. What? Urina Cartia really left her lover in the Empire? Urina was riding in a carriage and thinking about Ray. He must have grown up already. She remembered how they played outside in the winter as children, and it snowed. They wanted to make a snowman then. The boy wanted to be with her, no matter how many lives he had. He called himself a ray of hope for his Marquise. She was driving and mentally asking the guy to wait because she would soon arrive at the place. Ray sat in the room and read a book. He hadn't seen Urina for 5 years. Had she grown a lot? Had she become tall? But was she still so beautiful and dazzling? There was a knock on the door and the student went to open it. It was his friend from the estate who brought the letter. The guy noticed his friend's look and asked him not to be cold with him, and he brought the message that Ray was waiting for. He opened it and began to read. The newcomer knew that even if Ray grumbled, his heart fluttered. He noticed the change in his friend's expression and took offense. The student asks to be called only Reynard. A friend asks if he can use the diminutive version for close friends. But Ray doesn't agree to this. In this world, only Urina can call him that. Ray thanked her for the letter and promised to see her later. He was busy now. Left alone, he found a flower in the envelope. He remembered that his girlfriend loved its smell. She wrote that she was going towards the kingdoms of Dave and Crone. And when Ray receives the letter, the Marquise will cross the border of the kingdom of Crone. Let him wait. She will arrive soon. The guy is surprised. The girl is really coming here? To meet him? His friend stood behind the door and did not understand why he could not call his friend by friendly names. After all, if they started calling each other Eddie Ray, then they would look close. The doors swung open and Ray quickly walked down the corridor. Something magical was glowing in the carriage in Urina's hands. The maid was delighted, because this was more than the mistress had ever created before. The Marquise herself did not know about her ability to create something so big. According to the male companion, it is because of the proximity to the kingdom of Crone, known for its abundance of mana. That is why they do not use physical force here. If you pay attention, it's not hard to notice. Urina thought it would be great if she was born with a talent for magic. It's not like she stood still when Ray left the kingdom 5 years ago. It is important to be ready for changes, so the Marquise began to study self-defense magic. The problem was the lack of talent, and they would not have given the villainess such abilities. In this world, you need to have 3 things to master magic. The first is talat from birth. The second is to get along with mana. The third is the balance of mana in the body. The girl was good friends with mana, but due to its small presence, Urina can use simple magic that does not take away a large amount of this substance. After using all the mana, you can lie around all day in a faint. In the carriage, she wondered how Ray was doing. The companion asked not to worry too much about it. He considers the student better than anyone. Soon they arrived in the kingdom of Crone and checked into a hotel. At Betty, her body ached and she thought she was going to die. The maid remembered that when Ray left the estate, he was very small. I wonder what he is like now. The guy will soon be 18. He has clearly grown a lot, and his shoulders have probably become broader. The girl admitted that her friend's face had changed, or that he had changed in height, becoming taller. There was a knock on the door, and the Marquise asked to open it. It was clearly Dave. Urena was almost asleep and remembered what Ray had been like before. And how had he grown? The maid was talking to someone on the threshold, and this caught my attention. Urena. Suddenly, an unknown man in a cloak entered the room. The Marquise demanded not to approach, and if he came closer, she would not leave it like that. The guy took off his hood. It turned out to be Ray. He hugged the girl and said how much he missed her. Urena couldn't believe it. Was it him? His face, eyes, voice, intonation. Everything had changed so much. And that same warmth emanating from him. The Marchioness recognized him and also confessed how much she missed her beloved. Then they rode in a carriage. Urena was uneasy. She understood in her head that little Ray and the guy sitting next to her were one and the same person. Urena's heart didn't understand it. It felt like he had turned from a cute kitten into a mighty lion. Ray had grown so much that regardless of gender and age, everyone admired his beauty. Why is he so tall again? They say that mages are mostly weak and sick, but here the Marquise believed that he was a real knight. His body was not just stronger. The girl felt her friend's muscles even through his shirt. Although what was she thinking about? Ray leaned towards the Marquise. Was she unwell? She assured him. She was fine. But why didn't he feel awkward? Apparently, she was the only one worried. She immediately asked the guy to move. Urena quickly changed the subject. She asked how Ray ended up here since he had an academy. According to the guy, he wanted to take a walk because the weather was good. For the Marchioness, Ray was the same as in childhood. If he was uncomfortable talking about something, he changed the subject. Urena noted that it was definitely not the academy that sent her for a walk and admired nature. In his letters, he wrote about his diligence in studying and good grades. Was that a lie? It hurts the guy to hear this, but the girl denies it. Who hasn't attended classes for a long time? Ray looked away and said that he hadn't skipped. The student really studied hard. This is the first time he skips classes. The Marquise is unhappy. Does that mean he missed lectures and came here? Ray hugs his friend and asks her to forgive him because they haven't seen each other for a long time. Even when Aiden suggested going for a walk, Ray did not agree. Urena did not know this man. When the student saw the Marquise, it seemed to him as if he had returned to childhood. The girl remembered how in his early years her friend was afraid of something. He hugged her now or hid his face on her shoulder. Like a little kitten or a puppy eager for love. Each time the Marquise calmed him down. But now, she was forced to ask him to move away again. The guy asked if his companion was tired. She answered, tired. This would have happened to anyone in a carriage. Ray suggested that the girl sleep a little while they were traveling to the village. He hugged her to himself, as he did in childhood. But at some point, Ray grew up a lot and she could cuddle up to him. Soon the carriage stopped and Dave said and the need to walk to the overnight stay. The Marchioness tried to ask the reason but did not receive an answer. Ray got out of the carriage and helped his friend down, holding her by the waist. He explained it was dangerous. The girl thought she had just gotten off the carriage. They saw a crowd ahead shouting something. Urena wanted to run there, but Ray stopped her. He suggested going to rest because the Marquise was tired. The companions suggested following Mr. Reynard's advice. The lady decided to be careful, noticing a catch here. The company saw a man lying on the ground in the distance and blood. The victim did not move. Was he really dead? Even if a doctor came, he would not help the unfortunate man. Damn aristocrats can maim, throw dirty coins, and leave. This poor guy had an accident? She heard a loud sound. It was after the accident. The child lying on the ground would die? Like her then. The memories consumed the girl. When will she stop depending on them? It was scary and painful. That picture with the car and the headlights. And she in front of the car. She doesn't want to die. The poor thing was asking for help. She didn't want to be alone. The girl thought she had let go of the past. She had experienced pain, loneliness, and despair. The feelings after death did not leave her for a long time. She did not want to face suffering and death again. With a burning desire, the heroine searched for Ray. Spending days with him, she gradually forgot about fear. Until today, Urena thought that she had completely forgotten about them. The obsession passed, and she woke up in Ray's arms. He was there and asked not to worry. Everything was fine. A thought struck the girl. Is he dead? Like the innocent Yunsena? Is her friend cheating on her? Ray assured that he wouldn't do that. Everything is really fine. The Marchioness reminded about the blood in the street. According to the magician, the man was injured and would live. The master saved him with magic. The girl is happy. The unfortunate man is alive. Unlike her. The heroine is happy that everything worked out. They came to the lawn and Urena asked where they were. Ray answered, not far from the kingdom of Krone. It seemed to him that his friend was not feeling well, and he used the magic of movement as the Marquise thought. It happened when the girl was unconscious. She doesn't understand. Can you move so far with magic? It's easy for Ray. When he missed Urena, he came here, and it always seemed that the girl was nearby, because it smelled of her here. The heroine knew well how difficult it was to live in an unfamiliar place. She had a hard time falling asleep, having found herself in a big and unknown world. She felt guilty because Ray could feel lost and abandoned. But even understanding this, she still left it, and now she came back. The girl apologized to the guy. It was hard for him, probably, but she will fix everything. The guy suggested staying here for a while and then coming back when everything is fine. The magician suggested making a wreath for the girl. Aiden, whose estate is in the village, taught him this. He told how he often made wreaths while playing with his brothers and sisters in the field. Urena remembered. Aiden, a friend from the academy? The guy does not consider him a friend. The Marquise thinks otherwise. And why did the magician not write about him in his letters? Ray continued not to consider Aiden a friend. The girl smiles. He just doesn't want to admit it to himself. Urena wants to try making a wreath, and Ray will show her how to spin it. As Ray said, the scent here reminds her of the flower soap she used since childhood. The guy showed her a flower, although the Marquise did not understand at first what it was. And the young man thinks it is beautiful. Urena asks him to stop talking nonsense and let him make a wreath. According to the guy, there is still one thing she doesn't know how to do. The guest admitted, this is just new to her, and the wreath looks like a real crown because the flowers are golden. If you cast magic on it, it will not wither. The girl is surprised. Ray can do that too? She suggested casting a spell on her friend's creation. It is more beautiful. On the lawn, Ray laid his head on Urena's lap. He told how he witnessed an accident when he was 10 years old. The Marquise understands why he was so scared today. Then, a carriage with aristocrats also hit a person. The coachman got off his horse, shouted at the victim, and threw him some gold coins, and then drove the carriage. The aristocrats did not even look out into the street. The boy remembered blood on the road. People froze as if dead. No one was going to help, and Ray couldn't do anything. Only magicians could heal a deep wound. And the little people had no chance to call them. Urena doesn't think it's necessary to tell this. Now the guy is upset. The boy couldn't help then. The poor man was dying before his eyes, and the boy prayed for the victim to survive. All he could do was cry and pray. If he had learned magic then, would he have saved the poor man? The Marquise asks him not to feel guilty. Ray knows, but continues to regret what happened. And today, if not for the doctor, he would have abandoned the girl and run away. She assured him that the man would have thanked the boy at least for his prayer. Then Ray was with the unfortunate man until his last breath, and that was enough. The girl believes that her friend has the strength to fix it. Urena suggested finding the aristocrat who caused the accident today, and then give the scoundrel the devil, and make sure that this never happens again. We must not allow this to happen again. For their sake, and for those who suffered as well. Ray agrees. Soon, the Marchioness returned to her people in the city square. Beatty is glad to see her because she was scared when the mistress disappeared. Dave asked her not to worry, pointing to the presence of the Marchioness Ray, but still. The girl assures that everything is fine with her, and she pities the unfortunate maid. The maid said that the Marchioness felt ill and began to tremble. The girl thanks her for taking care of her. Betty promises to continue to worry about her mistress. She is glad that everything is all right with her mistress. The maid also saw so much blood for the first time, like Urina, and she is still shaking. I am sure that it was clearly harder for the Marquise. Betty asks her favorite not to worry so much. According to her, Dave immediately used magic. She didn't think he could heal such a deep wound. It's good that everything worked out, Urina thought. Betty wonders where Ray went. They were together. The lady explained his absence by new business. Ray went to investigate the incident with the carriage. The Marquise hopes that nothing will happen to him. After a while, Urina found herself in a room where Dave, the doctor, and the girl under the blanket were standing. According to the doctor, the patient is fine thanks to the quick help of the master magician. The Marquise noticed the girl's pallor on the bed, but she had lost a lot of blood. With the help of magic, wounds can be healed and blood can be replenished. That is why the patient has not woken up yet. Urina wonders if the girl will get worse due to lack of blood. The medic has already sent the right person for medicine. They will be delivered tomorrow. Dave asks not to worry because if the girl eats well and rests well, she will soon recover. Urina is glad that everything worked out. Yunsena, who is 22 years old, who struggled alone with pain and loneliness, and she will never be 23. Thank you for saving the patient. Finally free after 5 years. Urina was lying on her bed in the evening and couldn't sleep because of excitement. She was waiting for Ray to return. She took the wreath. Or maybe he was already home. She went out into the hallway and met a guy there. He asked her to go to bed. So why wasn't she sleeping? The Marquise wanted to understand whether he had returned or not. The guy answered the question when he had returned. Recently. She suggested going in and talking. The magician refused, and the girl asked him to tell her faster, otherwise he would freeze even more. The man in the carriage was not a nobleman. He was a merchant from the Empire. When Ray went over the incident, he got angry, as if he was disturbed over a trifle. The magician tried to calm the villain down. The girl realized that her friend still felt guilty. She knew it. She should have gone with her and scolded the scoundrel. She remembered the girl who had suffered. She would obviously be happy if they visited her. The Marquise thanks the magician for standing up for her, but Ray didn't just talk to him. Aiden walked around and couldn't find Ray. He thought he had done something wrong and should report him missing. Then he came across a couple and screamed with joy. Ray asked him not to make noise. Aiden didn't understand how his friend could say such a thing to him now. And where did he disappear to without warning? If only Ray knew how worried his friend was about him. He kept asking the poor guy not to shout. The mage reminded his comrade to call him only as Reynard. He asks, "Is it important now?" Ray is sure it is. Aiden apologizes for disturbing Uina. He has business with Ray. And she is his friend? You could say so, the Marchioness noted. She asked again, was it Aiden in front of her? She had heard about him from Reynard. As far as the lady knew, it was he who helped Ray adapt to the academy. Aiden was surprised that the girl called his friend by his nickname. What kind of relationship do they have? The Marquise introduced herself to a new person. He understood. She is the sender of the letter that Ray is waiting for. Aiden was genuinely surprised. What help was there? Naturally, he helped his friend. He offered his hand. He was also pleased to meet the young lady. He said her full name, Aidantes. The poor man did not understand. Was it really Ray in front of him, whom he knew? Why was he so nice to the girl? Ray suggested Urina to leave quickly. He wanted to show her something. She didn't mind, but what about Aiden? The guy was about to join them, but Ray refused. Everything would be fine with him. The poor guy watched them go and suddenly remembered the lesson. Does his friend remember this? Does Ray really think a girl is more important than a friend and everything else? He disappeared over nothing and didn't say anything. A man was in the room with the prince, thanking him for his time, noting his busy schedule. The man asked how the heir to the kingdom of Kron was doing. Curtis remembered it was his mother's homeland. The prince feels comfortable here. The man asked if he was interested in the local hierarchy of nobles. When they were walking around the palace, they met Ray and Urina. The companion told the guest about a student who was recognized as a genius with a talent for magic. According to the man, Ray is the best of all he knows, and the guy is sponsored by the Katiago Empire. The man says that the daughter of that family is next to the student. The companion suggested that Curtis recruit the magician. He could be useful. Urina and her friend went out into the garden. She saw the girls looking at the guy. He was obviously popular here. According to Ray, the beauties were most likely attracted by his eyes. When the Marchioness told about Beatus, many people became interested in such people. Urina doesn't think it's just the eyes. Is Ray popular at the academy too? He can't be unclaimed with his looks and abilities. He's obviously been confessed to many times. The guy looked at his girlfriend and thought she was feeling bad. The girl denied this. She was just tired of walking. They decided to sit down, but Ray couldn't find a handkerchief. Urina wanted to sit down anyway, but her friend was afraid she would stain her clothes. He went to get a handkerchief. Ray asks not to sit down yet while he is searching. Suddenly, she felt a strange look on her and heard a man's voice. What a coincidence to meet in such a place. Someone asked, "Maybe this is fate." It was Curtis, and the girl greeted him, calling him His Highness. The prince asks without these formalities. She does not understand what he is doing here and whether he is meeting Ray at the academy. And there is nothing good in their meeting. She asked what brought the heir here and received the answer. He is looking for talents. She decided to leave before her friend returned. Urina expressed hope for the prince's plan to be realized and wanted to leave. Ray came up to him with questions. What happened and who is this person? The girl decided to introduce them and retreat. She introduced her friend to His Highness, the Crown Prince of the Curtis Empire. The guy bowed and apologized for not recognizing the prince. He gave his name. Urina said that they had to leave because the prince was very busy. Curtis said that the dean had told stories about a genius named Reynard. Was that him? The prince was glad to meet him. Since they were destined to meet, the prince suggested having dinner together. Urina realized that it was not by chance that they had come across him now. In fact, the prince is interested in Ray's abilities. There's nothing to be done, we've already clashed, but it's worth trying until the last. The lady thanked him for the offer, but no need. And the prince is busy. He doesn't need to worry about them. According to Curtis, no matter how busy he is, there is no way the heir will not have time for Mrs. Cardia. Surely they won't refuse his request because he is in a foreign country? Urina remembered how the prince asked not to think about formalities, and now he uses the title. Ray unexpectedly bowed and announced his unwillingness to accept Curtis's offer, since he promised the master dinner. And the master is busy. They haven't seen each other for a long time. Ray apologized once again for refusing the crowned heir. The Marchioness looked at her friend in surprise. She doesn't know how to deceive so cleverly. But she is still ashamed. The prince regrets, and Urina triumphs. They have succeeded. But Curtis did not give up. There is a lot of time before dinner, but they can go with him for tea. He hopes that the guys will not refuse. The Marchioness smiled sourly. They were sitting at a table, and the prince asked the guests to help themselves. Among the delicacies were fruits, and Ray reminded his friend how much he loved them. The girl was surprised by the wizard's memory. Curtis noticed their close connection and asked, "Is it thanks to sponsorship that everyone gets so close?" According to the Marquise, they have communicated without formalities since childhood. But as for other people, she does not know. For the heir, this is strange, because it is not appropriate given the etiquette of a lady. The guests began to gather, and the prince asked, "Are they going to dinner with the master?" "Yes." Urina almost choked, although they did not sit for long. Curtis is strange in her understanding. Sometimes he talks as if they are close and gives compliments. Sometimes he asks Ray to show him magic. If it weren't for the girl's intervention, her friend would be overcome with oppression. Ray's face also became increasingly gloomy. Perhaps he understood the prince's intention to recruit him. Curtis, for some reason, said how he had a good time with the Marquise after one night. The boys' faces stretched in surprise. The prince reminded them of the night they had spent together. Could he really remember alone? Urina asked His Highness to refrain from words that could mislead. Ray was shocked, but the Marchioness made excuses. It was not like that. Then she accidentally met the prince at the night market and they talked a little. For Curtis, this is an elegant explanation. But yes, he agrees with the lady about the delusion. But did the heir formulate the idea incorrectly? They may have talked, but it was still night. The girl was upset. Is this the kind of speech they teach the prince? Ray stood up and addressed the guest. He wanted to see the guy's skills. Ray touched Curtis, and they moved to some office. The prince is surprised and does not understand how this is possible. According to the magician, the imperial family sometimes stays here, but the mansion is poorly guarded, so he does not need to be here. Ray wished them a good evening and disappeared. A servant came in and was surprised to see His Highness. He explained that the magical protective barrier had broken and he had burst in. But how had the prince gotten in? But the heir only smiled mysteriously. Upon returning to his place, Ray told the girl how he had taught the proud man a good lesson, Curtis. Soon the two of them went on a picnic. But the Marchioness asked if the boy had to go to school. He has been missing classes for more than a week now. After that meeting with the prince, Ray has not parted with Urina for a second for several days. She wanted to turn a blind eye to missing classes, but now she is worried. The guy suggested his girlfriend to just forget about it and go for a walk somewhere. A student in glasses approached them and asked why Ray hadn't come to class. The professor was looking for him. A classmate noticed Urina and asked his friend, "Does he have a girlfriend?" Ray asks not to talk nonsense, but does not understand why he came here. So Professor Hudson is looking for Ray because of his truancy. The professor asks to bring Ray by force if he is seen. Tom had better go, otherwise Hudson will fail the poor guy at the diploma. Having said this, the guy left. The Marchioness clarified. The professor is the one who came to the mansion. Is he a friend of Dave? Ray confirmed. Yes, he is. The girl asks her friend to go because Dave had already said how much Hudson values Reynard. The guy promised to go to the mentor and advised his friend to go to the dorm. The magician will return there after going to the teacher. Then Urina walked with Betty and thanked her for the delicious lunch, which Ray also liked. The maid promised to cook food tomorrow, which made the mistress happy. Aaron was walking with them. Some white streams began to cover them and the girls got scared. Urina realized, this is the magic of dividing space. It creates an artificial wall of mana, and it creates a new space, separated from the space where the person was. People can feel the walls around him, but they are difficult to see. The person outside will pass by without obstacles. Magic is mainly used by the nobility to meet lovers. The wall protected Urina and Aaron with a sword. People in cloaks approached them. The Marquise's companion is strong, but it will be difficult for him to fight enemies, because he protects the Marquise. And if the aliens used magic, then they clearly have a sorcerer with them. It's comforting that Ray clearly felt a wave of mana after the division of space. Urina was worried about Betty. She was going crazy. Will they hold out until Ray arrives? And the Marquise suddenly decided to destroy the space with her magic. The enemies shuddered. No one told them that the girl was a magician. The strangers rushed to grab Urina, and she tried to get rid of the wall. The girl succeeded, but the enemies were nearby. A young man appeared in front of her, and they looked at each other. Before the incident, Aaron was looking for Ray. And where did he go? They hadn't seen each other for a long time. Betty noticed the magic of dividing the space and began to call the mistress, but she was not there. Aaron asked the maid, "Wasn't she with the magician?" She answered that the student had some business and left. Aaron thought it would be safer if the maid called the mage here. And Betty ran after Dave. Aaron knew about this kind of magic and how hard it is to find the hidden wall. If you don't find it, it's like swinging a sword in the air. Urina was finally freed. Aaron apologizes, he should have been more attentive. The girl says she is fine and Dave will come soon and heal the knight's wounds. His injuries worry her more than her own. Aaron looks at Urina's bleeding and thinks it can't be stopped now. Aiden runs up and asks to let him take care of the Marquis and let the knight take care of himself. The guy admits that he's not good at healing magic, but Dave will be here soon. Maybe Ray will be here soon, so the girl needs to be patient. The Marquise thanks them because they were not hurt thanks to Ray's help. Aiden is embarrassed, but notes that if the Marquise had not broken the barrier, he would not have found the wall. Urina praised a friend for dressing wounds well. The guy admitted that after fencing exercises, he often gets minor injuries, and he learned by patching himself up every day. The girl suggested that it was difficult to study magic and fencing. Aiden answered. Not really, he studied little magic. And Ray clearly had a harder time. And Urena hasn't heard about this? Reynard also practiced fencing with a friend. The Marquise heard about it for the first time, but noticed her friend's calluses. But she didn't think he was into fencing. She admitted that she hadn't heard. According to Aiden, Urena couldn't help but know they often corresponded. It's strange for the guy that the girl has never seen her friend fence. He wields a sword better than the nobles. Aiden suggested that Urena ask Ray to show her skills. She'll try it. She was surprised that the guy hadn't told her about it. The lady was sad about it, but she wasn't offended. Even now, Urena wouldn't ask him about it. But what does she even know about him? The Marchioness spent only 6 months with him. That time seemed like another world, where there was only walking back and forth from the office to the bedroom. It was good that Ray met new friends at the academy. He learned a lot. And his little world became diverse, apparently. In his new world, there is no her. Betty and Dave came up to them. Urena decided to shout that she was dying and needed help. Dave asked what happened. The maid told about the sudden disappearance of the mistress. Betty was already afraid that she would never see Urena, and she asked her favorite not to cry. She was fine. Marquise is more interested. It is impossible to cure Sir Aaron, who suffered more than her. Aiden performed the help and asked if Urena is better. She is better. She thanked for everything. Aiden thinks it's natural to help in such a situation. If the girl gets hurt, he doesn't know what will happen to Reynard. The guy wonders what Urena and what kind of person. She is surprised. Ray said nothing about Aiden, but told him everything about her. Aiden admitted that Ray had to be pried out of words with pliers. He himself had said nothing. This surprised the Marquise, and the interlocutor continued to admit that he did not know how his comrade had lived before the academy. So Ray didn't say anything, but every month he waited impatiently for the letter. Constantly in a bad mood and not eating properly, Ray became cheerful when he received news. Urena sent letters, didn't she? As it seemed to Aiden, only thanks to the Marquise he was able to hold out here. The lady suddenly considered herself a fool, but out loud she sincerely thanked the talkative guy. Dave, Aaron, Beatty, and Urena were riding in a carriage and talking. The people who attacked the lady may be from the kingdom. The knight is almost certain of it. The villains have mastered the art of fencing. The Empire and the kingdom have different ways of fencing. The people of the former find it difficult to perfectly imitate their movements. Betty does not understand why they attacked the owner. Aaron intends to conduct a series of investigations. Dave admitted that the attack was because of Ray. He had heard of the boy's outstanding skills, and many were targeting him, since the student has the symbolic position of prejudice. The Marquise asked again, was she going to be used to obtain Ray? Dave, this hypothesis seems the most likely. Urena thinks that they planned to kill her, but Aaron does not think so. The enemies rushed at him as if they wanted to kill him, but this was not the case with the Marquise. Urena remembered her feelings at the end of the event. It did not seem like the villains wanted to kidnap her. It was decided to contact the Academy and the royal family of Crone to cooperate in the investigation. If the bandits were targeting the royal student Ray, then the authorities must know about it. The trio left the girl, and she was left alone. She thought that the criminals were targeting Ray, but all the time she thought that her life was at stake. Urena never thought of becoming an obstacle for her friend. She saw Reynard walking towards her. He found out everything and even started sweating. He was so worried that he didn't think about using the magic of moving in space. The guy asked where the wounds were and healed them. The girl looked at her friend. How he had grown up. She took hold of his head and noted the mess there. She asked how everything went with the professor. Ray doesn't think it's important, and why is she so calm? Urena wonders why the guy thinks that way. He sadly noted that the girl almost died. She knows, but she's still okay. Urena raised her hands and asked him to look at her palms. She said that although she was slightly injured, Dave healed her. So she was fine. The guys hugged after these words. Ray said he was not fine. When he heard about Urena Aiden, I was worried. The guy said she almost died not in the Empire where he is not, but here. Because of whom did he go all the way to learn magic? Why did he try so desperately, and for what purpose? Ray asks his friend to come home. It will be better for her. The killers' identities were revealed earlier than expected. They are traitors to the royal family and have been sought for a long time. The villains were found thanks to the tracks that Sir Aaron found. Thanks to this, the boys felt relieved and decided to stay in the kingdom for the time originally planned. Ray was worried, but the Marquise was happy to stay here a little longer. Aiden came up to her and asked if she was better than the lady. She answered, yes, with his help. Reynard was from the Empire, so he didn't know anyone in the kingdom. Aiden had been taking care of his friends' birthday parties since his youth. Once Aiden gave a friend a cake and he cried. After that, the good guy held birthday celebrations for Ray every year. He grumbled and asked not to repeat it, but they knew it was not unpleasant for him. Ray's coming-of-age year. The day is special, so Aiden wanted to make it better than previous years. Thought about inviting Ray's sponsor, the nobleman will not come to the sponsored students' party. Aiden eventually decided to cook imperial food, a big and tasty cake, and let his friend try it. The guy was cooking everything, and then Lady Cardia appeared. He bragged to her about his efforts, because here you can have a real party. Urena herself wanted to throw a party for Ray's birthday, and thanks his friend for the opportunity. Aiden led them to a room where Ray would definitely not arrive early. Marquise wonders when Ray will show up. According to Aiden, the professor won't let him hand in his dissertation if the guy misses classes again. He has to listen to the lecture for 3 hours. Urena asked if he himself should not be at classes. The student admitted that he had missed classes before, so his friend would not suspect anything. The Marquise thought with a smile. Ray has a good friend. Another student named Natan came to them. Aiden asked why he was there during class. The guy also wanted to help them. He introduced him to Urena, introducing them. The newbie wondered if he could call the girl sister. The girl asked, does this boy also address Ray as brother? He answered positively and with a smile. The Marquise allowed it. If her friend is a brother, then she will be a sister. The boy was unexpectedly surprised. Why does she call Reynard Ray? According to Urena, it's his nickname. The boy is upset. The mage forbade him to call himself that. The Marquise asked, what is Natan? The abbreviated name of his comrade? Ray? The name Reynard is too long, so she shortened it. It seems her friend has something special in mind. Nathan stated how good he is at planning parties. Before that, he had organized celebrations for Ray. The girl offered the boy to try and he got down to work. Soon the table was ready. Natan tried the sweets and assured, this is what Brother Reynard likes, and she knows him well since she is his friend. Urena looked at Natan and thought he was a cutie. She was glad to have such friends at Ray's. In 3 days, they had to go home and she could return with peace of mind. In the corridor, Aiden caught up with Ray and asked, did he have urgent business? He was dissatisfied. What business did it have on him? He asked where Urena was. The comrade knew where she was. He led Ray to the room and invited him in. Aiden asks his friend to pretend to be deceived and open the doors. Ray came in and saw the Marquise and other people. They started congratulating him on his birthday. Urena confessed how she wanted to say these words to him. That's why she came to the kingdom. Aiden and Natan began to hug their friend and congratulate him too. The Marquise noticed tears on her favorite's face. Oh, he's such a crybaby. According to Aiden, her friend always cries when they celebrate his holiday. I asked how long Urena had known Ray. She answered, about 5 years since she was 12. The guy is sure that his classmate was clearly no gift back then. Was it difficult for them to become friends? Ray's birthday for 5 years now, but the presence of the Marquise makes this day special. The hero of the occasion looked at them. He did not know what love was and had not heard a sincere, I love you. When the guy saw Urena, strange feelings arose. He wanted to see her smile, hold her hand, and enjoy the walk. He wanted to understand her miniature body and kiss those smiling lips. He wanted to swallow the sweet, honey-like breath and become one with the Marquise, body and soul. Ray wanted the whole girl and wanted to be everything for her. But he didn't know if it was love. Ray seemed to have always kept her in his heart. In the evening, the Marquise lay on her bed and could not sleep. She kept thinking that this was her last night here. Tomorrow, she would leave for the Empire and would not see her friend for several years. Urena's birthday, she spent more time with Ray. During the day, she went to classes with him, and in the evening, she walked around the city and had dinner. Nothing special, but still quite nice. The Marquise is pleased with the changes in Ray. He now writes in elegant cursive, listens calmly, and is not distracted by long lessons, looking at the professor with clear eyes. His yawning and slow image from childhood is gone. It tickles the heart. The girl got up and decided to get some fresh air. She opened the window and saw Ray in the neighboring window. The Marquise asked why Ray wasn't sleeping. He had to go to the academy tomorrow? He asked the same question, but reminded her of the long trip to the Empire. Urena couldn't sleep, and the guy invited her to look at the stars. They were sitting on the roof of the building, looking at the starry sky and feeling special. Ray threw a cloak over the girl's shoulders because it was cold. She asked him to cover up too. Urena asks with a smile, "If she makes a wrong step, they will fall down, but will everything be okay?" Ray reminds, "He is here and there is no need to worry." That's right. If the Marquise falls, he will save her with magic. Ray will protect her. That's what the girl had always hoped for since they met. But can she be happy after she drove the guy to such a distant place out of greed? Isn't she selfish? Ray asked if Urena wanted to sleep. She refused. He asked her to rest and not to worry. So the Marquise dozed off on her favorite's shoulder. Soon he carried her to the bedroom and laid her on the bed. He quietly told the sleeping woman that everything was fine, but he felt anxious. He understood that nothing would happen to her. Dave and the accompanying knights were there. They would protect Urena in the absence of the magician. He knew this, but he was still afraid. The guy asked his beloved to wait a little longer and he would be back soon. But in reality, Ray wanted the girl to stay with him. In the morning, the guy went to see Urena off to the carriage. They held hands. Ray wished the Marquise a safe journey, but he couldn't get a word out. He gave the girl the jewelry, asking her to promise to wear it until he returned. The girl thought it was a ruby, but it wasn't. According to the magician, the stone was made by condensing his mana. It was a magic pendant for self-defense. If anything happened, the Marquise had to take it in her hands and use magic. Any magic can be used only once. The mana circles needed for the spell are in the stone. She needs to hold the pendant and think about the magic she needs. Urena doubts. Is it possible? According to Ray, all the magic tools sold on the market work on the same principle. No one can use such strong magic. The guy asks not to remove the stone, even if he sleeps or takes a bath. Urena promises, but she is already being called. It is time to go. Ray goes to see the girl off. They hug goodbye, and Urena confessed. She will miss her friend, as he himself will. 2 years have passed since the Marquise returned from the Kingdom of Krone after meeting Ray. Nothing special happened, only the 2 twin brothers returned after graduating from the academy. And in a few more months, in the spring, Urena will come of age. And in a year, Ray will return, and then the original story will begin. Betty entered the Marquise's bedroom and brought a letter with the seal of Reynard. She gave him the seal. She is glad that he uses it and has not forgotten. In the letter, the guy wrote that he knows about her cold. The teacher told him about it. Apparently, the girl is weak in the cold both in childhood and now. Ray wrote, Aiden gave him Taishi's signature tea, which helps with colds, so he sent it to her. The tea can be drunk with snacks, and if the Marquise feels that she is sick, but asks to rest in her room. Ray thinks that his girlfriend is too busy these days, but he is glad that the girl is busier than him, although the guy is studying at the academy. The maid brought the Marquise a paper and a pen. She is surprised. How did she know what she needed? Betty has been serving for 10 years and knows what her mistress needs. Then Urena visited her aristocratic mother. She asked how she was and received the answer. Everything is fine. The daughter noticed that she says so, but the color of her face indicates otherwise. The adult Marquise initially had weak stamina, but she was never ill. Since last week, the woman's health has been deteriorating. They tried to find out the reason, but without success. Everyone in the house takes care of the unfortunate woman. The family hopes that things won't get worse, let alone better. There's no chance. Urena thinks that she should be worrying about her mother, not the other way around. The woman's face is completely gone. The mother thinks her daughter will get a fever, and Urena asks her mother to take care of herself first. The room is warm, but the patient's hands are cold. The girl noticed this. And yet, for the first time in a long time, the woman felt rested. Mother has lost weight. If only Urena could find the reason. The maid came in with clothes and a question. what to do with this. Mother looked and saw her favorite dress. It was too big for her, but it was a pity to throw away the thing when she was sick. It would be a pity to keep it in the closet to gather dust. The Marquise understood. She would hardly wear it again. Urina is ready to wear this garment. Her mother reminded her, it is not in fashion, but her daughter will establish a new trend. The woman is pleased. What else can you expect from her daughter? But she was not her real daughter. Her real daughter died 7 years ago. The heroine first came to this world 7 years ago. The Marquis gave her warm love. This aristocrat was the heroine's support, and now she is the best mother in the world for the girl. But her heart aches every time they see each other. Would the woman continue to look at her like that if she found out that this was not her real daughter? She wants to ask this question, but she will never ask it. Urina reminded her mother that she had called her. The woman told her about a hunting competition that would take place in a couple of months. The organizer was the imperial family. Every year, the monarchs hold this competition in the month of buds. The event resembles a picnic for nobles, but only the latter and knights can take part. The daughter does not understand why her mother started talking about this. She explained. She knows what condition her mother is in. She is unlikely to recover before the hunting tournament. Urina asks not to say that because the lady will definitely recover. The Marquise would like to think so herself, but she knows her body better than anyone. If she comes in such a state, she will become a burden. The woman asks her daughter to participate in the competition in her place this year. The girl reminded him that she was underage, but her mother corrected her. Her birthday was coming soon and she would just turn 18. She was old enough to represent the family in competitions. Since this is an imperial event, Urina will definitely meet with Curtis, although she does not want to. But now the original story has begun, so the girl is not averse to going out. And did the original Marchioness participate in the tournament at this age? But she remembered the stone pendant, smiled, and agreed. A month passed. One day, Betty came to Urina. According to her, the lady was diligently preparing for the upcoming event with all her zeal. He is interested in the lady's success in embroidery. The girl admitted that she has difficulty with the family coat of arms pattern because of its complexity. During hunting competitions, shawls are given to loved ones or family members, sewn with care and hope for a safe return. That's why Urina makes shawls for her father and 3 brothers. She had no idea that embroidery could be so complicated. On the family crest, the eagle holds a sword so that no one would think it was a shaman's crest. The girl hadn't finished a single one. How would she have time? The maid offered the mistress some tea and a little rest. She would bring it quickly. Urina's 2 brothers suddenly entered the room. She hid the handkerchief at the last moment. She almost got caught. The brothers came to see each other because they had arrived late and hadn't even had dinner together. The girl was sure they would have met tomorrow morning anyway, and they were tired from the road, so it would have been better to rest. The boys were almost upset. Was their sister not happy to see them? Were they annoying her? The girl had 3 brothers in total, Rix, Edwin, and Justin. They were too caring about her, like those older brothers from romance novels who adore their younger sister. Rix is calm and reserved. The other twin brothers are so tactile that their sister can't handle them. As children, they hugged and kissed their sister, calling her cutie. When Urina entered the academy, they sent her letters with gifts every week. At that time, the girl was unfamiliar with this, and the brothers were a burden. The sister avoided them, but their good attitude made the boys' family. Although she still finds excessive attention a burden. Urina admitted that they do not irritate her. She is just worried, because they are tired from the road. They said that they are not tired at all, and they are wondering who is accompanying the sister at the tournament. Urina thought about it but answered, "Father, probably." The brothers asked, "Did he say so himself?" The sister answered negatively, on the basis of which the guys are sure that Dad will not become an escort. Betty came into the Marquise's room and conveyed the order of the brothers to bring her in connection with an urgent message. Urina became interested, because they themselves would have come. They are not the kind of people who ask to appear to them. The sister arrived, but the boys weren't there yet. Betty explained that they asked to wait a little. She doesn't understand why they are behaving like that, but they will be finished soon, won't they? The boys were practicing swords in the meantime. The wait dragged on longer than Urina thought. The 3rd brother came to her and asked what she was doing there. The girl answered that she was waiting for the guys to finish sparring. They asked her to come to them. He wondered if she was bored. He asked, "Who would accompany the lady?" She mentioned her father again, but her brother corrected her. Dad wants to see one of his sons in this role. The parent himself may return a little earlier than planned. Brother is ready to be her escort at the event. But he is glad to hear her quick answer. But does the sister care who will be the escort? Urina honestly admitted that she wants to see him as such. But Urina couldn't handle the twins. According to her brother, they wouldn't leave her alone. And then the sparring ended. Edwin won. The girl looked at the guys. They couldn't be stopped. The guys immediately ran to their sister, and Edwin was especially happy about the victory. Urina felt sorry for Justin. He had a sad face because of some loss. She asked why she was called. To show sparring? The boys started arguing about who would be the chaperone. Edwin reproached his brother because they had already agreed, but he denied it. The sister asked, were they sparring to choose who would be the chaperone? Rix, smiling, thinks that this is quite their style. He announced to his brothers that it was decided that he would accompany his sister. Edwin and Justin are outraged and deny this development. They called it disrespectful towards them. Rix thinks it's not his problem. If they think it's unfair, he should have offered his own candidacy earlier. His brother suggested that his family spar with him if they were so unhappy. If Ray was considered a master of magic, then Rix was a genius of fencing. From childhood, he was recognized as talented in this field. At 18, he became the youngest winner in the history of the Imperial fencing competition. Edwin and Justin are known for their skills, but they were not up to his level. The sister upset the boys. Rick suggested it first, so there was nothing to be done. And they should have said it earlier. Betty entered the mistress's room and saw a scarf. She asked what kind of thing it was. The mistress had made such items for her father and brothers, but Urina would not reveal any details. It was a secret for everyone. The Marchioness remembered how Ray once brought her to the lawn where he liked to go when he began to miss her. His words that everything here reminded him of a girl, and it seemed as if she was nearby. Urina won't have time to do anything during the competition. She has to finish and send the scarf to the academy, and before sending, spray the letter with floral perfume. The Marchioness asked her maid what day it was. Betty replied, "The 4th day of the month of Bud." Urina was so busy preparing for the hunting competition that she did not notice how quickly the time flew by. The last time Ray wrote to her was on the 19th of the month of silence. Although he had previously done this monthly, now it is the 2nd month and there is no news from him. This upsets the girl. Urina was sitting at a table with other ladies. The conversation was about a student sponsored by the Tessin family who had won 1st place at the Imperial Academy. And the father of one of the girls even praised the Count's insight. The Marquise wondered why Ray wasn't writing to her. Had something happened to him? The interlocutor called out to her and pointed to the girl's gloves. She hadn't seen them before and wondered who this model belonged to. The gloves seemed beautiful to the interlocutor. Urina agrees because they have a unique design, and they are pretty in themselves. The friend regrets that she has not seen them before. She wonders where the Marquise ordered them. The gloves were a gift from Ray. He said that this model had recently become fashionable in the Kingdom of Krone. The Marchioness told her interlocutors so. Now they understand why they had never seen anything like this before. Before one of the girls could find out who Urina got the gloves from, someone passed on a rumor. That someone supported by the Cartia family was attending the Royal Academy of Krone. Urina heard a question addressed to her. Was it this young man who gave her the gloves? She confirmed this assumption. He often sent gifts to the Marquise from the kingdom. The girls are delighted with the young man's taste. Urina is not sure that the taste is good here. Maybe instead of Ray, who doesn't understand fashion, Aiden or Natan chose them together. Rumors reached the girls that this guy is famous in other countries. A cousin of one of the girls had recently crossed paths with this mage and found him amazing. He was surprised because for this guy, using magic was easier than breathing. And is it true? Urina nodded. Everyone is surprised. The goddess blessed Beatus, which is really incredible. One of the ladies says that what's even cooler is that this guy helped the royal family catch the rebels. Doesn't that mean he has strength and courage? A year and a half ago, Ray, who learned from the novel about the role of those who attacked Urina in the Kingdom of Krone, they were enemies of the royal family. Ray volunteered to track down this force and destroyed it, leaving nothing behind. The royal family officially recognized the boy's contribution thanks to this. Rumors about him are spreading throughout the empire. It was unusual for the Marchioness to hear such things. Ray loves danger. Rumor has it that Crown Prince Curtis Genosian has his eye on this talent. He started a conversation at the academy and showed interest in Ray, demonstrating it to everyone. Betty approached Urena with a question whether to call the carriage. Yes, the lady answered. Call. She told her friends about important matters and the need to leave. The interlocutors at the table wished the Marquise a good journey, and they said goodbye. Urena was pleased with the time spent and promised to contact the Kingdom of Krone. At home, her servant Robert met her. She asked if any letters had arrived. They came, and Robert took one of them to the hostess's room. Thinking that the message was from Ray, the Marquise enthusiastically opened the envelope, but it was not her beloved friend who wrote it. She wondered why he was behaving like that. But she couldn't help but worry about the guy. Ray, whom she knows, would have sent her a note regardless of his business, telling her about his inability to write often. But there have been no letters for several months, and this suggests that something strange has happened. The maid standing nearby thinks that the young magician is very busy if he does not send letters to the mistress. Urena is upset. He has not written for a long time. According to Betty, the guy is a graduate. If something happened to him, the academy would contact the mistress. The girl hopes that at least he is not sick with something. The maid recommends writing to Ray again in this case. After all, last time Urena wrote a message but never sent it to the young man. But what a shame if the lady receives a reply as soon as she sends the letter. And soon there will be a hunting competition. If Urena takes part in the competition, she will not be able to send letters for some time. Then how about sending it early? The maid is sure that her mistress may not wait for an answer and leave without saying that she is going to a hunting competition. Urena was going to go to a house in the mountains of Genis and stay there for at least a month. She decided to write a letter, saying that she was leaving and would not be able to write for about a month. She immediately asked the maid to bring her stationery. She went to carry out the order. In the letter, Urena wrote to Ray that she would not be in the capital for some time, so she decided to send him a message. Soon, the girl would leave for the villa to participate in a hunting competition that the imperial family holds every spring. Until now, the Marquise had never been to such an event, as it was dangerous, but this time she will be there instead of her sick mother. The girl sewed new scarves for the brothers and Ray himself. She will enclose this gift when she sends the letter. Perhaps by this time Urena will be in the hunting grounds, so she will be able to get an answer only upon returning home. The girl promised to tell all the details when she arrives at the mansion. She signed and put the date. In the entry, she added that she made the enclosed scarf with great difficulty, so the guy should use it carefully. And if he loses it, the girl will not let her beloved friend into the mansion. The maid Betty came in. She confessed that she knew that this scarf was intended for Mr. Ray. Urena herself does not like the product very much. The flower petals look so unnatural and the text is crooked. According to the maid, her mistress's embroidery skills are the best in the empire, so Mr. Reynard will definitely like them. And Betty secretly called this scarf more beautiful than for the mistress's brothers. Urena asks to send along with the letter the gift she bought last time. Soon the maid sent the message, having received gratitude from the mistress. Betty remembered the tea party, when the maids from other families talked only about Ray. For her, the guy in childhood was like a younger brother, and now he has become such a noble man. The poor housekeeper wonders if she will be able to address him the same way when he returns home. Urena doesn't think so, because the guy won't think much about it. And if Betty starts treating Ray like an adult, he will feel uncomfortable. The mistress advises to treat the guy as before, like a younger brother. After all, in the Kingdom of Krone, the maid was like an elder for her. This calmed the girl down. She confessed how she especially missed the young talent today. Then Urena gave instructions to the maid on what things they needed to take. She was tired. She had so much to prepare. She was like a squirrel in a wheel. She remembered that Ray still hadn't written her a letter. She saw the things he had given her in the room. It was infuriating, although sad too. She didn't understand why she was behaving like this because of that letter. She heard that they brought news from Ray. The lady joyfully opened the door, and suddenly he himself entered. The guys began to hug. Urena did not believe that it was him, but in her room there really was her beloved friend. Ray himself is glad about the long-awaited meeting, that Urena, whom he saw only in a dream, is now before his own eyes, in his arms. Now the unhappy lover will never leave her. Urina's heart felt the same as his. But if unknown people approach her, what should the guy do? But he decided to think about it later. In the meantime, he will enjoy his vacation with the girl. Ray looked around. Everything in the room was as before. Although the guy thought that everything had changed here. In reality, in the absence of the young magician, they only cleaned the auditorium but did not touch anything. The boys felt a strange feeling, because they were standing facing each other here in the place of their shared memories, which until yesterday had been empty. And while Ray was absent, it was cold for her here. But thanks to the guy, it became warmer here. Ray noticed the books and thought they were his notes. He picked them up and started studying them. He laughed at his bad handwriting. Urina reminded him that his grammar was also poor, saw the inscription, "Sleepy Fool." And Ray had not noticed this before. The girl explained, when people came from the academy, she was looking at the guy's notes while he was listening to a lecture about joining the institution. Ray chuckled. How could his friend's hand tremble when writing such an unpleasant word? According to Urina, he made the same mistake even after 1,000 explanations. But no matter. Only she can call him that. Ray noted that during his studies at the academy, professors admired him. He looked at his girlfriend and saw her strange look. He asked why she was looking like that. Urina N understands why he hasn't written to her all this time. She doesn't think Ray was sick all the time. The guy was probably doing great. He explained it all by being busy. But in Urina's opinion, even if that was the case, he could have spared 5 minutes of his time. Even if he was busy, he could write one sentence to the unfortunate girl. Ray didn't think about what his beloved felt like then. The monthly letters stopped coming. He didn't suspect the girl's anxiety because of him. During this entire period, the Marquise tried to convince herself that the guy was fine. He was just busy. But her soul was uneasy. The unfortunate lady tormented herself with questions. Was he so ill that he couldn't write? At such moments, Urina was angry with herself for sending her beloved to such a distance because of her own selfishness. Why did he make the girl be so pathetic? Who was he for the Marquise if she felt this way because of him? Ray asked the girl not to cry, noticing tears on her face. He apologized for not telling her earlier. If he had known that he thought so, he would have sent a message. The guy thought it would be faster to come in person than to write letters, and Urina just wanted to talk about this. After all, students with a scholarship can't leave the kingdom until they finish their studies. Why did Ray end up in the mansion when he still has a year to study? The guy just graduated earlier, although Urina has never heard of anything like that. You can count on your fingers the number of people who graduated in 7 years at the Royal Academy of Krone. And Ray graduated a year earlier? Ray said. After the villains attacked the girl in the kingdom, he began to have nightmares. In addition, in the last minutes of her life in the dream, the guy was constantly late. Whatever he did, hugging the cold Urina, it was useless. Ray's life became useless without his beloved. And when she died, the desire to live disappeared with her. He knew it was only a dream, but he could not calm down. It was then that Ray understood Urina's fear of death. Perhaps she was also tormented by a similar nightmare. If something happened to her while he was gone, the guy should return as soon as possible. Ray was so worried that he couldn't stay there a minute longer. He was going crazy with fear that something might happen in his absence. Urina pretended to be calm, not wanting her friend to feel guilty, but it turns out he was thinking about her all the time. The girl calmed her beloved out loud. She was okay. Ray suggested that they greet the Marquise properly now. He had returned. The girl congratulated him on this, holding hands. Urina continued to find out the reason for the lack of letters. She asked if he was so busy with his studies. Ray smiled at her. Yes, and letters are not comparable to meeting in person. He came up to the girl closely and began asking his questions. Was the Marquise really looking forward to his letter? If Ray had asked about it in the first minutes of their meeting, she would have decisively answered negatively. And now she doesn't even know what her beloved felt all this time. Urina couldn't bring herself to speak, because she knows the meaning of the words she will say. He is also interested in whether the girl was bored. The Marchioness hesitated with her answer, and Ray repeated the question. Betty entered and saw with horror how a certain person was bending over the mistress. She brought Justin and Edwin with her. They demanded an explanation of the situation. The maid began to apologize to the mistress. She was afraid that someone wanted to harm her. Irina assures that everything is fine because she did not immediately recognize Mr. Reynard. The brothers understand that he finished his studies earlier, but why did he come without warning? Irina explained. Reynard was going to tell about it personally. One of the brothers asks why he sneaked into the mansion unnoticed. The Marquise denies it. The guy, like a normal person, simply walked through the front door. And why were they alone in the living room? According to the girl, she brought him here because they needed to talk in private. Edwin and Justin don't understand this. Irina was surprised herself because Ray should be at the academy, and he was here. That's why she called. If Ray left without permission, she should have secretly sent the guy back so that others wouldn't know about it. The magician confirmed that it was all true. The guys think he doesn't look like a magician. Isn't Ray a student of the magic faculty? According to Ray, it is a superstition to consider wizards stupid. The brothers believe that this is actually true. Most often, but not always, is the guest's answer. Rix entered the room. On the way, he heard the approximate story of the incident. The elder brother addressed the arriving guest. Rumors had spread throughout the empire about Ray being Dave's student. The guy doesn't consider himself that good. Modest, those around him called him. Rix thought Dave would remain without students for the rest of his life. Ray doesn't think there are any other students except himself. Irina listened to the conversation with joy. After all, the older brother is different from the twins. Ray relayed the rumors he had heard about Rix. They talked about his enormous talent. The guy's name was even discussed in the Kingdom of Krone. In his opinion, it was strange when wizard students discussed his name. Rix once again paid attention to Ray's hand. Judging by the calluses, he wields a sword. The magician admitted to knowing the basics, but lacking experience. That's why he heard about Rix. And the guest doesn't understand why a magician would wield a sword? The question from the older brother of his beloved friend confused Ray. He did not know what to answer. Rix suggested checking what the young talent is capable of. In the large hall of the mansion, Rix and Reynard took their place in the center. The spectators were located to the side. It was noticeable that the magician was very nervous. Irina hoped that everything would be fine. Yes, she was worried, even though her friend was better than Aiden in fencing. Her beloved comrade's opponent is Rix. He is considered the most talented among all his peers. Will Ray be able to withstand at least one round of confrontation? One of the male viewers does not understand why the magician pretends to be able to wield a sword. After all, a magician is a magician. They remembered Reynard's story about how he learned this art at the academy. People made fun of the poor man Ray, as if he thought that training alone would be enough. One of the guests was glad that he was just standing there and not involved in what was happening. Irina and her devoted maid watched the confrontation attentively. Beatty emotionally cheered for the guys. Ray's actions. He held on for so long, even though Rix wasn't too tough with his partner in the fight. At one point, the older brother knocked the sword out of his opponent's hand with a deft blow, and the weapon flew away, almost hitting the girls. The sword would have surely flown towards the audience, but Reynard raised his hand and used magic to stop the weapon in midair. Taking the sword by the hilt again, he bowed and admitted defeat. Rix smiles. He is pleased with the sparring that took place. Everyone crowds around and discusses the fight. It was something. In Rix's opinion, Ray, although not a knight, is quite good. He asks if the magician would like to take part in a hunting competition. Irina repeated again. Her brother was talking about an event that the imperial family held every spring. The girl remembered that she had written a letter to her friend about it. Suddenly, she closed her eyes and leaned over. The brothers came closer to their sister, asking what was wrong with her. Irina assured them that she was fine. She simply remembered about the forgotten luggage that she was going to take with her on the hunt. Now she would go and look for it. Reynard himself felt tired and decided to go too. Rix was worried because the young man had just returned from the road, and he had forced him to go to sparring. The older brother asked the boy to go and have a good rest. It was decided to see everyone later. Ray caught up with the Marquise in the corridor. He immediately began to ask what had happened to her in the hall. Was the girl really in pain? Irina admitted that she had no pain. The guy continued to ask, temperature? She was so hot. The Marquise again reassured her friend. Everything was fine. Reynard did not understand what was going on then. The girl told how before her friend arrived, she sent him a letter to the academy. The guy replied that he took all the messages with him. Irina decided to admit that she was unable to wait for an answer and sent him another message. Since Reynard didn't answer the girl, she sent another letter a few days ago and wondered if everything was okay with the guy. Perhaps this message was still within the Empire. Ray thinks that everything is fine then and he will just need to ask Aiden to send him back. The guy smiles. It turns out that the Marquise was so worried about him. Irina admitted to sending the letter along with the handkerchief. This caused bewilderment on the young man's face. The girl explained, during hunting competitions, women give men a handkerchief sewn by themselves, praying for a safe return. The Marquise made a scarf for Ray and the brothers, sending the item along with that letter. So now she doesn't have a scarf for the guy. If she asks Aiden to send it back, it could take a month. Reynard is sure that the competition will be over by then. The girl suggests that they resign themselves to it, because there is nothing they can do about it. Who asked Ray to come back without writing about it first? But if Aiden is sent back, Irina will not have to worry about the letter with the handkerchief getting lost somewhere. All this caused intense thought work in the young wizard and his friend. That evening, Irina's parents met Ray. The father promised to help the young man as much as he could, and the mother tenderly hugged the boy, as if he were her own offspring. Dave got angry, not believing that Ray graduated earlier. He demanded that he go back. He admitted it only after checking the guy's diploma 3 times for fakeness. Irina thought Dave was keeping her friend in check. He smiled. Not really. The magician simply took Ray for a rival. That's what magicians are like. The girl didn't understand it, just like Reynard didn't understand it.